embodied in a person, in a body. The know-how. It's the health of that person, it's the skills of that person, it's the education and knowledge of that person. You can learn, you can get human capital in many, many ways. You can get it from school, you can also get it from jobs. So I want us to think about human capital as beyond health and education. It's actually, you learn a lot when you work. Whether you're a chef or a mechanic or whatever, you acquire skill, you discover things. And so human capital is this incredible dynamic process of acquiring capabilities. Okay? So, if you want to then maximize human capital to power that vision that we've talked about, okay? You can't have it with the kind of human capital we have in Africa right now. Right now, this is how we measure human capital index. This is one of the measures, right? And the way we measure, the way we interpret it is the level of productivity of a child or a person born today at the age of 18 in the future. Okay, so take a child who's born today, and at the 18 years from now, what level of productivity will they have? And here you can see, though the yellow line is Vietnam, one of the East Asian countries that have very high levels of human capital, almost 70%, right? You can imagine that person will have almost 70% productivity compared to the full complement of education, health, and know-how that they might have, right? China is next, not that far away. India, slightly high, slightly lower, but still higher than most African countries except two. Right? There are only two countries in Africa right now that have the levels of human capital that India or China, or India has, but less than a lot of East Asian countries. And that is Mauritius and Kenya. Okay? So what that means is, a child born in 2020 in Kenya will be 55% as productive when they turn 18. Okay? Compared to what the complete complement of their health, education, and all the other necessary things in human capital. A child born in Chad, only 30%. Now you cannot, absolutely cannot have the transformation we're talking about with these levels of human capital. Just cannot. So that's why I say demography is not destiny. You really have to change this. Okay? And there are some ways you can do that. We talk about this, right? Start from childhood. Immunizations, maternal and newborn, attention to the health of mothers and the neonatal care. Malnutrition is a big problem in the region. So we need to actually think about the complement interventions that we need in order to be able to reduce malnutrition and stunting. So that requires, water and sanitation, health, and proper nutrition. There are lots of diseases that kill people very early in their life, like malaria, tuberculosis, HIV. All those things have to be treated, right? But then also in education, it's not just sending kids to school. That is important. We need to make sure that they show up. But then we really need to invest in making sure that they learn. And they learn to interpret a simple text. You've heard a lot about the learning poverty. A lot of kids right now go to school and they can't actually give you the meaning of a simple text. A 10-year-old cannot do that, right? So that's really not the way to improve human capital. So I've listed some things here. These are things that have been considered to be important and effective, cost-effective in actually improving human capital, educational outcomes as well as health outcomes, right? But I also mentioned that you really need to go beyond just education and health. You need to provide jobs for these young people. Okay? And it is those types of jobs that are going to be that are going to allow you to be engineers, to be doctors, to be artificial intelligence programmers, and so on and so on and so on, right? So those are the kinds of processes for building human capital and capabilities and innovation. Okay, but the key thing is if you build all that human capital, but then don't allow people to be actually in places where they can be most effective, where their talent is actually utilized to the fullest, then you will still not be able to get the outcomes of that transformation. Right? And here, I'm talking about markets, but markets are really about, the thing about markets is that they actually allocate talent really well. In most cases in Africa, the markets are too small. We have very small countries. Now, in the demographic boom to come, some countries will be large enough that maybe, internal markets are large enough that that will happen. But there will still be a lot of countries that will be too small for the talent in their boundaries, right? So markets need to be larger, and they need to allow for private sector growth so that it can really allocate the necessary talent to the right use and the right. Because in terms of using human capital to be really productive, we have to first of all build it, then we have to protect it, then we have to use it. Right? Those are the three ingredients to really maximizing human capital. You build, you protect, and you use it. Okay. I know I'm probably running out of time, but let me. Good? I'm good? Okay. So now you have invested in people, and you've really created a market for them to move, right? To move around so that, and I'm talking about mobility here in a much broader sense, right? If you are in one part of Tanzania and your skills are needed in another part, you can move. So that's okay within the country. But could you move to Uganda, to Kenya, to South Africa, to West Africa? Can you do that? Okay? If that is where the real talent that you have is actually needed the most in order to create the most value for the region, for that country, for the continent, right? Can you do that? That's really what we were talking about. In order to be able to do that, we absolutely need institutions. Institutions to build, to protect, and to use human capital, right? To deliver services in education, in health, right? In job promotion, in training, right? We need those institutions, absolutely necessary. But we also need institutions that safeguard coordination and cooperation across countries, right? And not really get rid of the hurdles and the obstacles that actually prevent the true utilization of the talent of your generation. Okay. We need a lot of this institution. That's the key, right? If you want transformation, you need a large market, and you need that large market to allow people to move around, have a lot of mobility, and to have the right skills set to the right jobs and the right use. So this is the virtuous cycle that I've been talking about. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in my profession in economics, we think a lot about human capital. We theorize about it. We measure it. But the one way to think about human capital, really concretely, is to think of it as a personal narrative. Each one of you has a journey you've taken. Okay? When you went to school, how you went to school, the obstacles you overcame, right? The hurdles in the way, the persistence, the vision you had, and so on and so on. Mine started in northern Kenya. I was that post-independent generation. And it was completely serendipitous that I went to school. It may not have happened at all. Okay? So I was born to a family of nomads I don't know how many of you know that. You know what that is?
Yes.
Okay, good. But they were moving around with their livestock, and it just so happened that when I was at the right age of going to school, they were close to a school. Okay? And the Kenyan government was, of course, trying to get a lot of students, a lot of children to school, so, some government functionary came and persuaded a lot of the, families in that village to send children to the school, because the school actually did not have any students in it. But they couldn't send the eldest son and the girls to school, because it was still a very strange thing. Schooling was a very strange thing at the time to a lot of the conservative families that community that I grew up in at the time. First of all, they couldn't send girls to school because they thought this is there was this traditional, very conservative, also patriarchal system of protecting girls. And for the sons, it was the eldest son was the custodian of family tradition and history. So they didn't want to lose their eldest sons to something very new and strange, school, right? And so it was the middle child who became an experiment. And that's how I ended up in school. And once I went to school, I liked it, I stayed in it, and it's a long story. But what I want you to take away from this is that because I went to school and all the skills and know-how that I acquired, it has allowed me enormous opportunities, which unfortunately, regrettably, a lot of my siblings and a lot of my friends and colleagues at the time who did not go to school have missed out on. Okay? What I have is portable, I can go with it, it's embodied in me, I can go and work everywhere in the world. Because I know how to read, I can learn a lot of things. Okay? If you learn how to read, you can learn, if you know how to read, you can learn anything. That's the entry point. As long as it is written. If you wanted to become a mechanic today, if you are a doctor but you want to be a mechanic today, as long as the manual for being a mechanic is written, you can learn how to be a mechanic. Okay? So that is the value of this human capital that we're talking about. You each have that kind of a personal story. But the most important thing is, when aggregated, our own individual narratives, when aggregated, is what really gives power to human capital. And that is what's hopeful about your future as young people. Okay? You will become the talent and the workforce for Africa, for your own countries, for your own families, for Africa, but also for the world. Because that's the only region. Let's go back here. This is the only region that's going to have a growing workforce. A lot of other regions are aging, and their population, the workforce is declining. That's where the talent is going to come from, you. So I'm very hopeful for your generation and for your children's generation. But for that, we all have to work together to make sure that those investments are really realized. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andy. I think he deserves another clap. And it is because he's taken such a complex thing. And I feel like even for me, I understand it so much more today following your presentation, Andy. So thank you very much. And I think it is really apt that we leave those slides up as they are. Any reflections, thoughts, questions? And Andy, I really liked the correlation to all of us just reflecting on our personal stories and the stories of those we know. Because I think that is where it really lies, and it really underscores what that privilege of education can really do to change not only our individual lives, but community lives and our families and our nations. Any reflections, thoughts, questions? And as we continue, please remember our hashtag is Invest in People. So if you're tweeting, just remember the hashtag. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Josephine, and thank you for the lesson. As the title there says, African youth will dominate global labor force. I just have a word. We are now in a generation that the AI is very much involved. And we are talking about the youth, the labor force. How are we as Africans prepared for this, for the future, for the upcoming youth? Because it is going viral, it is picking up so fast. So how have we prepared ourselves? Thank you.
Thank you. So how are we positioning ourselves in the face of artificial intelligence and all the jobs we are being told daily it is going to take over?
Yeah.
Any other reflection? I thought I saw a hand at the back. Thoughts, questions?
Hello everyone, my name is Paul. I'm the former speaker of the East African Youth Parliament and the EU's youth representative. So I like Andy's presentation actually. You touched base on one key issue that I think we all need to ponder on. You say demography is not destiny. And I think if we all kind of like try to delve into that phrase, there's a lot of answers for policymakers and us as young people. Because what we're discussing today is not only for the leaders and the policymakers. What we're discussing is also for us as young people. And how our participation in how we want to transform our African continent and so forth. So I think we all need to take Andy's phrase and kind of like ponder and think about it more, because in that phrase there might be answers to what we're looking for. So demography, just because we're young people, it does not mean our destinies are going to be shaped for the better. We have to actually invest in people. See, they're all interlinking. So I think it's crucial for us to kind of rethink what have we done before and what are we doing at the current context to reach the goals that we want. How do we want sustainability? How do we want to leave no one behind? And I think it's crucial. We're in a very crucial point where this conversation is very important. So I would like us to keep pondering on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Demography is not destiny, so it's not a given. Any other question, reflection? Maybe behind you, Musa.
Thank you very much. My name is Arafat Besheve, and I'm one of the National Youth Delegates in the Commonwealth Youth Council. So my reflection can be when it comes to issues of jobs. I think one of the topics that has been raised there is about how are we generating jobs for young people. But I think for today, nowadays, it's like the jobs that are created now for young people are not the jobs for the future young people. So we need now to think beyond what kind of a jobs that are we creating for the future of young people that we are now thinking, for example, when we reach about 2063, 2030, are they the jobs the same that we now wish for this young people to take them? So we need to be more, how can we integrate issues of technology aspect, but also bringing young people closer so that they can also be one part of the puzzle to create jobs for their future, but also for their self. I think that's one of my key takeaway things.
Thank you. So again, jobs not for jobs' sake, but how do we future-proof the work, and how do we ensure that as African youth are dominating the global labor force, we are actually in tune with what the markets are in need of?
Good morning, my name is Maureen Makota, and I have a small question. So, as Mr. Andrew was saying, we've discussed how African population is currently growing rapidly and how this affects the general human capital in the continent of Africa, but how do we think that climate change will affect the population growth and the growth of the workforce? And how are we planning to solve this?
Thank you. So we're talking about mobility within countries and between countries, but we're also seeing climate change accelerating really rapidly. What would be the impact of that?
Okay, thank you once again. My name is 𝗙𝗛𝗓𝗡𝗚 from South Sudan. I'm the former child parliament in South Sudan, and now I'm the executive director of Girls for Positive Transformation. So my question is that, so how can we really help, especially girls who are living with disabilities? Because let me say, mostly in my country, they really take them as they are nothing. So how can we bring them up? How can we give them hope that they can do and they can be in the same level with others who are really working? Because if we go in terms of education, the infrastructure is not all that good for them to learn, so it gets difficult for them to go to school. So you will see in the end of the day, they just say that we have nothing to go and do at school because others are mistreating them. Even the classes are not good for them to maintain them there at school. Also, due to the climate change, also we need to look for a way forward how we can really help them. Let me say it in the site of 𝗤𝗏. So it's really get difficult for children to go to school because really there is overcrowded of classes and the buildings are not all that enough for them to be at school. So it gets difficult once it is now time for school. So how can World Bank in collaboration with South Sudan help such kind of situation to really overcome and make children reach their full potential and have access to the digital environment? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I think so far, as we were discussing it, it can sort of make the human capital or the youth demographic seem homogeneous, but we're now starting to hear that there are diversities that are emerging, cultural diversity, capabilities and abilities, maybe in terms of the formula. How does that take into account some of those divergences?
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Excellent. So let me start. I think I have written down the questions, so let me take them in order. So AI, are we people prepared? So the interesting thing about the AI is that nobody actually at this point knows how it is going to evolve. Okay. And there are many ways in which it can evolve. There are all kinds of dark predictions about AI, right? It's going to take over people's work, or it threatens humanity, and so on and so on. But you know, human beings have a choice in how they shape the AI to actually increase the productivity and the value for human beings. We have that choice because we are the ones who are inventing it. Okay, so in our region, in Africa, what we need to do is, part of what we talk about quality of education really is implicated in the AI revolution as well, right? So are we investing a lot in science education for the young people in our schools? Right? So I think there is still a lot of opportunity for African young people and researchers and scientists and technically oriented people to get involved in AI and to use it in all kinds of spheres of life. How to diagnose a disease. So that's one way we can use AI. How to actually direct machines to be able to solve dangerous jobs that human beings' lives would be endangered, right? So and so on and so on. There are many uses of AI that can be very useful, can be complementary to human beings. So I think it's really up to the education systems. And here I'm talking to the government officials, right? It's up to the education system and, of course, the educationists themselves to actually define the way in which we can harness the power of AI, because there's a lot of power in the way in which AI can be utilized to improve human flourishing in general. The jobs and the future of jobs. Yes, you're absolutely right. The jobs that were done 20 years ago are not the jobs that people are doing today. At least a lot of them, right? And so on. And so we don't know what kinds of jobs. But that's why that's why I talked about markets and institutions, right? The whole idea is to promote this ecosystem where there is innovation and creativity, right? And that's part of, that's part of utilizing your human capital. How you use human capital is to imagine new ideas, new products, solving new problems, okay? That's what human capital is really powerful for. It's a very important tool for solving problems. You can create things out of thin air, literally, with human capital. That's the power of ideas. And so, as long as there is space, an ecosystem which allows for innovation, for creativity, for people to use their human capital to solve problems, we need not worry about what kinds of jobs will be done next in 10 or 20 or 30 years, because people will adapt. That's the other thing about human capital. You want human capital to allow, what human capital allows you is adaptation. Okay? So I give you my personal story. If I was basically a livestock herder, it's going to be very difficult for me to adapt to be a doctor. Okay? Or even an animal. I could potentially maybe become an animal veterinarian, but it will be limited. Okay? I'm not saying that animal herders don't have human capital. They have a lot of human capital. It's just very specific. Right? But with the education you have, you can actually adapt, right, to different kinds of jobs. Today you're an economist in a government office, tomorrow you're an economist in a bank, tomorrow you're an economist in some think tank, or a professor, and so on and so on. Like, there are many roles you can play if you're an economist. You see what I mean? Like, that's what I mean by saying that you need to have an ecosystem that allows for innovation, creativity, adaptation to the situation. So climate change will definitely affect population mobility. The key thing is, what kinds of institutions should we have to make sure that we don't treat these people as if they're completely useless, right? I think the way we've been treating refugees, whether they move because of climate or conflict or something like that, has been really, unfortunately, abysmal, right? We pack them in a camp somewhere, we completely isolate them from society, and in many places, at least, in most cases, that's how it has been done. And that's really not the best way to actually maximize the value of this. These are people with skills, with ambition, with all kinds of again, human capital. The sooner we think about integrating them with the society they actually move to and utilize their talents, the better. They will be useful for their families that way. They will be less burdensome to countries that way. They will actually add to the value and productivity of our country. So I think we really need to think about how we actually treat people who are displaced because of no fault of their own, because they happen to be in a region, in a country that is in conflict, or because they were forced to leave because of floods or droughts or whatever it is now. So that's what I would say about this. Now, the thing is that I think with the kind of climate change frequencies that we are experiencing, we're going to see a lot more population movement. We should expect and anticipate that. But again, it's how we actually respond that will make a difference. So that's important. I couldn't agree with you more about the different the different needs of children with disabilities. Okay. In the World Bank, we've been working a lot on trying to figure out ways in which we can build infrastructure in schools that will actually help children with disabilities to be able to participate fully in the education system and to protect advantage of those facilities. But this is again, I would say this is again where you want to challenge the policymakers to think about maximizing the human capital of everybody, right? Just because a child has some disability doesn't mean that that completely invalidates everything else they can bring to the society, okay? They can be lawyers, they can be doctors, there are all kinds of things they can be. But it is up to the society to be able to actually allow for that flourishing to take place. Their policies are important. Public policies and the institutions for catering to that will be crucial for that. So that's, but in the World Bank we've been trying to do that. There are, I think the World Bank has education projects in almost every country we work in. Some of them may have accommodations for how to deal with children with disabilities. Some of them may not, but that doesn't mean that they can't reproduce. But the World Bank projects are very small. Okay, let's just be clear. World Bank projects are very small compared to what the government spends on education. Okay, so it's really the government policies that are going to make the difference, and it is where that's where we should keep our eye on. Because usually people focus a lot on World Bank projects, which are a very tiny fraction of what the government in total spends on education. Sometimes 20% of all government revenues is spent on education. That's huge. I don't think there is any one sector in any country that takes that much money. So in that sense it's important, but the question is, what do we get out of all this spending? Well, that's the other part, right, that we need to pay attention to. And how should we really spend that in order to maximize cost effectiveness?
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for being really wonderful conversationists. We've come to the end of our session. Thank you. We have 10 minutes for tea. Thankfully, it's at the back, so just grab a cup and come back. And I will be handing over to the young people. So the moderator is 𝗙𝗓𝗄𝗎. I am looking forward to that session. So let's give them the honor of listening to them. Let us be back and seated, all of us, at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
I don't know if I have enough.
You're welcome, guys. So before I start, I give them time to introduce themselves. I just want to acknowledge the presentation that was made by Andrew. I think you set a very, very good pace for our panel discussion this morning, and we will have no problem because at least it was clear on what human capital development is all about. So I'll be facilitating a panel discussion on Africa institutional architecture in addressing the human capital. So let's start with you, Nazelia. Can you please introduce yourself in just seconds so that people know who is on the panel?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Millicent Naserian from Kenya, representing the Horn of Africa Youth Network, and also working with a partner organization, which is the Youth Senate of Kenya. I sit in the Youth Senate of Kenya as the Youth Senator for Narok County, where we basically speak for the youth and with the youth for matters involving political leadership, democracy, humanitarian work, and also matters of skills development for the youth and youth representation at large. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much.
Good morning once again. My name is 𝗙𝗔𝗖𝗘𝗕𝗕𝗢, and I am an economic science student from the University of Dar es Salaam, now in my second year. And I feel very privileged to sit in front of you to delve deep into the human capital development. And as a UN delegate representing Tanzania to the UNJ this year, this has actually been a center of our discussions on how we can improve the skills and make sure that youth participation is maximized in general. So this is more on a passionate level for me, and I cannot wait to delve more into this with you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is 𝗬𝗘𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm currently the acting director and AU representative for Save the Children AU Liaison Office. I'm a staunch child rights advocate, and I hope as we discuss issues to do with young people, we still remember that we have children that are going to be turning into youth tomorrow, and that cycle will still continue. So we need to have that relationship looking at the whole transformation. I consider myself a senior youth. Many of the challenges that our youth are going through, we've also gone through, and I think we are only as old as the heart wants us to be. So I really identify with what has been said here before, and I know we will have time to do all the presentations, but I just wanted to start by saying, when Anthony was saying that we are ready, so Anthony, I have a colleague from Save the Children who said that as a continent, we are ready for takeoff. I remembered while in primary school more than 20 years ago, we were still told we are ready for takeoff. And I was asking myself, if you're at the airport and you've gotten on the plane and you've taxied and the pilot says, fasten your belt, we are ready for takeoff, and 20 years down the line you're still waiting to take off, how angry would you be? So we need to recognize that our young people have been told they are taking off for a really long time, and we actually need to now say we are at a cruising altitude. So let's have discussions that look at more implementation rather than us waiting to take off and waiting and waiting and growing old while waiting to take off. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Andrew put it, to say human capital development, in simple terms, is investing in people. So our panel this morning would love to hear more from young people on how we can invest in people, more especially young people, but also women. Also, achievement of human development, achievement of human capital development requires collective and joint effort. We cannot deal with human development capital just looking at a percentage of people, but also making sure that everyone is on board inclusive. But also would love to zoom in the Africa context. Yes, we know that human development capital, we can be looking at a whole part of it, but we want to dive in African countries, but also looking at the Agenda 2063. You might agree with me that in Agenda 2063, aspiration number 6 is that we strive for an Africa whose development is people-driven, especially relying on the potential offered by the women and its people. Already that gives us a limelight of why we're supposed to be here, because African countries recognize the effort that we have as young people, but also women. But also the ambition is that by 2063, Africa will be a continent that has equal participation, but also access for all segments of continents, but also young people or women have access to opportunities. Further, young employment would have been eliminated, unemployment rather, would have been eliminated, and there would have been full access to education. I wouldn't emphasize more on this because our expert facilitator this morning, Andrew, had touched on that one. But also just to say, the youth will be the propagators of the new knowledge and contribute significantly to the economy. So for me, as a moderator this morning, what I would like to pose is that young people have a role, and young people are supposed to be the top notch in terms of investment, because if you invest in them, they'll be able to contribute to the economy of any country. So that's why this morning I have a panel of young people just to reflect on a few things together. So maybe I should start with the AU representative. I just want to understand from you, you should provide us an overview of AU interventions on human capital development. What is it that is being happened at AU level? Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And just to clarify, I do not represent the African Union. I work for Save the Children that has an AU license.
Okay.
Because I may say something that yes, you understand. So first of all, as I've indicated, I think it's really important for us to understand the architecture, because the African Union is a collection of the 55 member states, which means they don't directly implement programs. The countries come together, they have policies, they have frameworks, and this for me is really important. The implementation is either at the regional or the national level especially. When the representative from the World Bank was speaking today, I think they alluded to the fact that governments spend a lot of money on things such as education and all that, and that is really the point where these issues are implemented. But at the continental level, we do have the overall frameworks, which I think as young people we should really familiarize ourselves with, because we use those instruments that have been signed on by our governments to hold them to account. The first one is what she has spoken about just now, is Agenda 2063. You look at Agenda 2063 and it's a big document with aspirations and where we want to be in 2063. I'm not very sure I will reach 2063. I pray I do. But you can imagine when you have a 40-year work plan. Most of us plan for the week or for the month, but you have a plan for 40 years. So that means there is a vision. The Agenda 2063 talks about investment in skills, education, and all these things for young people. But it's an agenda. For us to be able to effectively monitor the government's implementation of this, we need to break it down at country and regional level. And that is the challenge that we have, because it's a big ambition that we have. So looking at the various indicators for countries, asking your government whether they are actually going as per Agenda 2063, because it's something that has been agreed on collectively by all countries. I think it's important. So for many of us in our individual countries, we have medium to long-term plans. I know in Kenya we had something called Vision 2030. In many countries we had all these visions. But for a vision to become reality, you have to look at how it is being implemented. And I think from our end, Agenda 2063 is a great document. However, at national level, at regional level, it's our responsibility to track the implementation of governments of this Agenda 2063. But then looking at the other aspects that were spoken about, so education, for example, we have an African education fund to support education infrastructure on the continent. We have the Continental Education Strategy for Africa. So these are initiatives that are looking at skills, education for young people. Again, investment by governments in this, because the AU is essentially all these governments put together. what are the individual governments doing in terms of investing in education? Because we know without education, then what we are talking about in Agenda 2063 is not going to work. We have the African Youth Charter, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with, and this is something that is looking at skills and employment. And I really like the drive of young people, because you may find that they are not familiar with the Agenda 2063, that's okay, all these other frameworks, but when you talk about the African Youth Charter, then many of us are engaged with these processes at national level, at regional level, at continental level really. This is looking at the various skills, employment opportunities, ensuring that young people are able to be in the room and discuss these issues, make sure that the strategies are being implemented. And as I said before, I mean, for me, participation is half of achieving what you want to achieve. There is nobody, even when you're looking for a job, you will have to go and participate in an interview. You have to go and participate in an exercise. So there is no way you cannot have young people in the room and then expect that jobs are going to be created for young people. They have to be there, they have to give their unique experiences, what are their aspirations, and the African Youth Charter does exactly that. In terms of the health and well-being for people, for example, and I'm sorry you did not tell me how many seconds or minutes you gave me, but...
I was about to say, can you wrap up?
Yes. But in terms of health and well-being, and I think we'll have space to discuss all these other issues, in terms of health and well-being, we've seen that healthy populations are the ones that are going to contribute towards, the prosperity of the continent. But we see many discriminations inherent in our societies. So we will have discrimination against women, for example, discrimination against girls. When the World Bank representative was speaking, I was thinking child marriage happens to be one of the biggest barriers to achieving that parity between boys and girls. So at the AU level, we have the overall health function under the CDC that is looking at ensuring that the population is healthy. But we have specialized units, for example, the harmful practices unit, that really wants to tackle these issues to do with child marriage, FGM, online child sexual abuse, and all these things, so that we are all growing at the same level, boys, girls, men, and women. There are quite a number of other issues, but I'll hand it over for now, and then we will continue with the discussions. Thank you.
Maybe just a follow-up. We also want to understand the opportunities that young people can dive on the instruments that you mentioned. What are some of the opportunities?
Yes, so some of the opportunities that we have. So for example, under education, I know the aspiration, and this is something that is rapidly growing, we now have the Africa Open University. University education is a challenge in many countries because it's a very expensive undertaking. A lot of the education we have does not even focus on what we like to call African solutions to African problems. It is an entirely adopted system of education, and we are really trying to have skill-based, education for young people. So the African Open University is one of the examples. We have the free continental trade area that a lot of governments are now really trying to accelerate. I keep telling myself, this is the one unique opportunity that we have for young people. Because if I was to ask my father to move countries, he is now 76, to move to a different country and start working, that is impossible. Young people are highly mobile, they understand the dynamics of IT, they move across borders, and I think the free continental trade area, once fully implemented, is one of the opportunities that is really, really going to be instrumental in terms of engagement with the youth. The other aspect, of course, it has to do with science and technology. Somebody talked about artificial intelligence. I think AI is going to be one of the definitive things over the next couple of decades. A lot of young people understand how to work AI. It's just trying to see how this is going to integrate with the overall society. So we have various initiatives at the AU, for example, the African Space Policy and Strategy, things that are a bit futuristic. I think it's young people that need, sorry about that need to engage more with the African Union structures just to ensure that they take on these opportunities. The last thing I would like to say, for example, is directly related to women and gender empowerment. We have an AU gender policy framework. We have a lot of inequalities, as I've indicated, and many of them are manifested through gender inequality. These are like, you know, the uneven power dynamics between men and women. It's essentially the starting point of all the discrimination. I think it's important for young people to be involved in these campaigns at national level, at regional level, to ensure that we are addressing this issue from childhood, young people, adults and all that. We need to bring our voices to the front. So I think for me, let's familiarize ourselves with the instruments that are available. Let's participate, let's push for these spaces. Because I keep on asking myself, this side event should be in a room next to where the heads of states are, so that we can open the door and tell them, you're talking about us, we are here, can you please listen to us? It shouldn't be a side event. It should be part of the main event where we are discussing, because the demographic dividend, all these things we are talking about, it's about young people. But I can guarantee at some point it's going to be 70% old people like me in the room, and 30% young people in the back saying, yeah, we discussed this yesterday and we are recommending. And I think that is not ideal. So let's look at participation, civil society participation, young people, children participating in these things, and let's push for our governments really to fund these initiatives and ensure that we have meaningful participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cleo. I'll come to you, Ebenezer. I want you to reflect on regional economic communities. So how do regional economic communities collaborate with the national governments and stakeholders to address human capital development?
All right, so when talking on the regional economic communities and the national governments, first of all, it's really important if we understand that we're talking of a general economic and human capital development of the whole of African states, and it's not just each individual countries. So sometimes it's really hard to separate the country's priorities versus the regional movements that there is. So on these challenges, I really think regional communities, first of all, make sure that there is policy harmonizations between the national governments and their procedures. So in terms of policy harmonizations, what standards are there when we talk about human capital and the skills, the education, vocational trainings? What standards are there that are recognizable by all these states in this sense? So when you look about, for example, the Bureau standards that there are in terms of products and services, there is these standards that if one country does not follow, that means the same products cannot work in the other countries. So in terms of skills, how are we sure that the soft skills that are produced in a country, the education that is produced, can in the same level balance with the other countries? We are talking about regional immobility in terms of level, that a person in one country sometimes finds it very hard to work in another country just because of the regulations and principles that align in the standards of that education. So in that sense, there should be adoption of the standards that work for everybody, the skills and trainings, making sure that no one is left behind in that sense. So facilitating mobility of skilled workers in the labor market, imbalances and promotion of knowledge exchange, this will harness the potential of human capital on a broader scale. But in policy, harmonization is really important when we look at the data repository, the regional data repository, whereby each country follows such indicators in terms of reaching these standards, the human capital indicators, so as to gain deeper insights into the challenges faced by different countries. Because, for example, in Tanzania, if we were talking about, for example, better education, our country has been building a lot of classrooms and making sure that everybody gets a chance to go into school. But in other countries, that's not the case. For them is, for example, making sure that there's better teachers, better guidance and counseling. So these differences on the indicators of what human capital is actually, that leads to some imbalances in one way or another. So establishment of this regional data repository, sharing accurate and relevant data on what's going on in terms of human capital, I think really ensures that there is a development of tailored solutions to these problems. But also inclusivity is really paramount in this process, because when we talk about just the governments doing their decisions and who is holding them accountable, So there is a really big importance in public-private partnership in ensuring that all this is viable, you know. So this cross-pollination of ideas can actually drive innovation and facilitate adoption of successful approaches in various contexts. So the regional economic community sets ground whereby all the countries abide to the standards that ensure that there is a very good interlinkage in this harmonization.
Thank you for that. I also love the point that you are referring to Tanzania, but also you are bringing a point that it might be different in other countries. And I'll give room for the participants at some point also to dive in terms of their experiences in different countries. A follow-up question to you, Ebenezer. I wanted to understand how can intergovernmental bodies promote youth participation and engagement in human capital development?
Yeah, so this year, just last month, we met in Addis with other UN youth delegates representing other countries, and this has been the center of our discussion, youth representation and what it actually means. You know, nowadays, every company, every organizations, all government sectors have these advisory boards where youth are listened to, they consult them in terms of what is happening, but do they have the accountability part of the process, the implementation of it all? You know, we as youth do not just want to be hard, you know. We want to be hard and look what you're doing and making sure you implement them, and if you don't, then we have the part to make you accountable for your actions. So we've been actually trying to delve more into how is this all representation, making a very good point. So I really think, of course, youth consultation, youth advisory boards, all these are very important, but it will not be possible for us as youth to make best informed decisions and participate in all these decision talks if we do not have access to information and resources. You know, for example, in the United Nations, it's a very complex system to know that what is going to happen next and all the information that is provided. It cuts out some part of the youth that is a very large part. You know, we're in a century where it's not equal everywhere, you know. So the rural, the urban, the youth that are educated, what about those that are not? So there's a big group that is secluded in these discussions. But what do we really want? Do we want just 3 youths to stand up and say and represent what others don't even know about? So how are we cutting the gap between the youth and making sure that there is inclusivity in it all? So maybe simplifying the information and resources and making all this available, not only in the digital platforms, but how do we counterpart the problem of language barrier? What about the problem of technology and innovation? You know, it's not just that we want information to be out there. We want information to be out there and accessible to everybody. So if we're talking about accessibility, then we have to maximize on that and ensuring that all the youth are actually included in these talks. So right now we're talking about human capital, and of course, if you ask countries in their reports, every country says that we have built vocational trainings and we include guiding and counseling, but when you look deeply into that, it's just in 4 schools or 3 cities in the country. This is not actually what we want. What we want is it's not build these things everywhere or making sure that every school has these things, but in this context, in the relevance evident environment, are you making sure that the human capital is developed in that sense, you know? So the people around lakes, what about skills that talk about fishing and how to making sure that they deal with arable land and all that. So these skills should actually be disseminated according to relevance and evidence. I think that's really important if we want to making sure that human capital is not only developed but also utilized to the development of our African continent in general. So information hubs, simplified and relevant information, and inclusivity will be very important if we're talking about youth in terms of them to make informed decisions and be part of these talks and making sure that all this is really fruitful in the long run.
Thank you for those insights. Over to you, Madam Millicent. I want you to reflect on national level. So we've started with the AU, then at regional level, now we come to you at national level. I wanted you to share practices, success stories, and case studies on addressing human capital development challenges in different contexts. So looking at different contexts on how we can address human capital development challenges.
Basically, I think it's high time. It's high time we start talking about human capital, because for the longest time we have not had such conferences, we have not had such discussions to discuss about human capital. And at this point, maybe if I reflect at Kenya and look at the success stories, maybe from my country, Kenya, we have not had so much about human capital there, but from my perspective of human capital, it is a progressive conversation. It is something that continually is devolving as the day goes by. Maybe as I look at Kenya right now, our government has set up different programs, different implementation strategies, maybe for the youth, especially now if I look at the CIDPs. Maybe just to look at that, possibly I would maybe point out one, which is the 𝗙𝗔𝗖𝗘𝗕𝗕 program in Kenya. In Kenya, they talk about the 𝗙𝗔𝗖𝗘𝗕𝗕 program, which is maybe a platform. It is a platform whereby the youth are trained and then they get to work from where they are. It's like a work from home program, but that is basically where they get the skills and they get to implement them at their own place. So you get like a lot of youth get a chance to learn from the program, and then they're able to work virtually, like virtual assistants, like what, and it is one of the success stories that we had. In our previous government, we also had something called 𝗙𝗧𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗧, which was a program for the youth to basically work, to basically delve into the hands-on skills at the grassroots level. But it's not currently ongoing, but progressively we are looking at more and more youth sectors like that are coming up. Also maybe just to mention that we have a lot of youth initiatives in Kenya. We have seen so many youth initiatives in Kenya that are coming up, and it's one of the things which maybe all of us in Africa need to take up and implement, because basically in partnership with even the regional economic communities, COMESA, EAC, IGA, we've seen that so many youth organizations are starting to partner with these international organizations to also implement. So I think there are so many success stories, but we have not yet sat down to look at a specific strategy of implementation. Like, they are there, yes, but are they being supported? Are they getting the kind of support that needs to take them to a higher level? And if they're there, are the youths basically aware of them? Because most of them are not aware of the opportunities that are there. So I think it's high time in our own different countries, in our own different places, we sit down to look at the initiatives that are there by the international groups or your own initiatives as a youth. Are they being supported? Are they being implemented? On forums like this, I think this is where the heads of state need to know that the youth have gathered, and these are their recommendations. They need to give their recommendations on 1, 2, 3, and especially on human capital. What is our trajectory as Africa for Vision 2065? Like, what are we looking at achieving in this period of time? And I think it is high time we also have youth representation in decision-making tables, because yes, they are there, we are not, but we feel like we are not given enough space to still talk about them. So as much as, yes, we can focus on the success stories and look at what has been done, we still have a long way to go. Just as it has been mentioned before, that the plane is yet to take off. It needs to take off as soon as possible.
Thank you for that. Just a follow-up question. You said there are a lot of youth initiatives in Kenya. I would want to understand, are these initiatives supported by government or young people just initiating?
Not all initiatives are supported by the government. We have a section of them that are supported by the government, or those ones who've gone ahead to actually look for support from the government or the international bodies. I would say a larger percentage of youth right now in Kenya, maybe in my country, they are working online. Or maybe most of them are unemployed. So what they do is they run their small businesses, or they run their own small initiatives, looking at maybe achieving the economical value for them. but we are not yet there. The graph is too low still, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So yes, I think we can still do a lot of work, especially on the youth sectors and the youth support, and the government needs to come in to support the initiatives of the youth, either in areas of women, in areas of youth participation, and also in areas of child development. So we have a long way to go still.
Thank you. You've talked about youth representation and also participation. I would also want to understand from you, how can national government promote youth participation and engagement in human capital development initiatives?
Okay. The national government can come in different ways. Number one, let's talk about capacity building. When we talk about capacity building, what can the national government do? Not only in Kenya, but maybe even in Africa at large, because we cannot talk about one country, and yet we are at the Heads of State Africa Human Capital Conference. So in different governments, they can host conferences or have capacity building programs for the youth. In this way, I mean, they can have different sessions for the youth to actually teach them on how they can equip themselves for the future to come. Because one of the places that a youth needs to be is the place of know-how. I think once you have the education, and once you have the understanding of whatever you're talking about, you also need to have the know-how. So most of them just have an idea, they have maybe a rough sketch of how it's going to turn out, but they do not have the capacity to do that. So capacity building needs to be there. Another thing that we have to do is maybe have engagement and consultation sessions whereby we have larger bodies and organizations coming in to the youth and talking to them about the specific areas. Like if we have people who are very passionate about women empowerment, youth who are very passionate about issues of child abuse, issues of what, it's high time regional organizations and what come in to actually sit them and engage and consult with them to actually give them the capability of the projects that they are going to have. The other thing is integration in decision making. It needs to be there so that we can be able to, if maybe we have such a session and maybe an African Union needs to have a program to implement on something. It's high time the youth in the different sectors are called upon to actually be integrated in that conversation, to be part of the decision-making table. Because you cannot say you're drafting a policy for the youth and the youth are not involved in that conversation. So there's need also for such as well. Another thing is to increase communication and outreach, because communication is there, but how far has it gone? I'll give you an example for a project that was being done in Kenya. There was an international organization, which I won't mention, but they just focused on Nairobi. It was about, it was a project of child abuse and rape, which was being done in one of the slums in Nairobi. But is it only that place that child abuse happens? No, it's not only that place. They had a focus on FGM. But in reality, does FGM happen in big cities or does FGM happen in the secluded areas? So you see, we have the issue of communication and outreach. I think it's high time the international organizations also take charge of their ways of communication and their areas of focus, because you cannot say you're implementing a project maybe in a slum area, which is a project for agriculture. How will it benefit them? Yeah? So I think it's high time also they look at areas like that. Another issue is on financing and budgeting allocation, because most of the projects of the youth do not have financial support. And it's the most difficult part once you are a youth and you don't have the financial capability to maybe take your project to the next level. And I think it's high time organizations and governments come in to help in financing the youth to achieving their goal through financing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our panelists. I'm opening the floor to the participants. After hearing from the panelists here, I would also want to get some insights, comments, and maybe you have questions the panelists can clarify. So I'm opening the floor. at the back. Because of time, I'll take 2 questions.
Good morning. My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗂𝗧𝗏. I'm from Global Peace Foundation, Tanzania. Thank you so much to the panelists. That was very insightful and informative presentations. For me, I have a brief input on the discussion. And one, I would like to address the issue of contextualizing or localizing from the international to the regional frameworks in our own local communities on the implementation, but also Madame there talked about communication. What approaches are we using to implement our initiatives? I think we are beyond not knowing what we are supposed to do, but how do we do it? How do we communicate to the local community? For example, I was thinking, when we are talking about creating job opportunities or skills development opportunities, why can't we start from the ground? What does a certain community need? Let's talk to what the context is in need or will be productive, rather than imposing things that will not work out for them. And that is why sometimes we can put out a lot of information in regards to opportunities, but there are so many opportunities that cannot be communicated to a young person at the grassroots level, probably at the village level, because you have not created the basic opportunity that he or she needed at the ground for him to be ready to, to understand that he can take on a certain opportunity that you're saying is at regional level or at the national level. So I think we should start from the base. But secondly, our heads of state needs to be very intentional. It's not that they don't know what to do. It's not that they don't know where to go. It's not that they don't have the information needed for them to do the right things. But we need for them to be willing and intentional about what they're implementing, especially on the issues of young people. The same way where we say, us as young people, we need to be on the decision-making tables. We are there. We have the ability. Some of the young people have been trained, have the capacity to become good leaders. But we are there taking positions without intentions. So without it being intentional, you cannot, first of all, you won't have a vision of what you really want to do. Because from the beginning, with no intentions, you have no plans. So we need to be intentional so we can have plans and be dedicated to the change that we want to make. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Malekela. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of Africa HIVI Foundation. I want to make a little contribution. I heard someone was saying that the youth engagement has for some time not been working because we meet, we put a lot of good propositions and they go and there is no accountability to that and nowhere to complain, by the way. So taking from Sylvia, how can we ensure that young people are participating in decision making so that we do not continue with the approach which has not been working? Meeting, consulting, developing recommendations, sending, and that not being taken into account. Several ways, but I will recommend one. I think it's now a high time for the governments in Africa to ensure there is a legal specific quota for young people in decision making. It should be according to the law that if you are appointing ministers, 20 of them, at least maybe 30%, which is 6, have to be young people. If you're going to the members of parliament, if your parties are nominating people to contest, for you to be eligible to participate in the election, at least maybe 30% of your contestants must be young people below the age of 35 years. So that goes in all levels and automatically will not meet to complain that we are not part of the decision. So maybe the approach would be how to influence the legal reforms to make sure that young people, they have a specific quota. Because now we say we want 50-50 for men and women. We are very happy for that. But what about young people to be in decision making? And this is very important because if we put young people in decision making, they will be there for a long time and will have the assurance of sustainability of plans and not leaving us behind. At the time when we come into power, we were not there during when the things started, and we come with new things, and it becomes to be new things every day. Everyone coming with new plans because they were not part of the process. So that's my contribution. At least I think we need to make a change on how we advocate, and if the heads of state can take that legal specific quota, it will be more assurance of our participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insightful contributions. Just a wrap up is that at least young people should be able to hold government officials accountable. We are not negotiating in any point when it comes to youth participation, and it should be clear to any government official. I think for high time, we act like we are negotiating. There is nothing to negotiate when it comes to youth participation. And when it comes to policies that we are part of, internationally we have subscribed to make sure that we empower young people, but also to make sure that they participate. Let's stick to the policies, even the national policies that we have, let's stick to them. Let's make sure we hold them accountable, because by the end of the day, we have instruments that direct the government to be empowered in any way when it comes to youth participation. But maybe the question is, how are those policies being implemented? And to this far, I want to pose to all the young people here to say, it is within yourself. If you are not part of anything, I think nothing will happen. And I want you all to abide by this. So I will shout, nothing for us without us, and you repeat after me. I think this should be our slogan. Nothing for us without us. Nothing for us. I'm not hearing you perfectly. Nothing for us without us. Nothing for us without us. That should be the slogan, and I can't wait to meet you tomorrow. And thank you so much, our panelists, for those contributions, and our listeners for being active. Thank you.
Come on, you can clap louder. Thank you, Manida, for the brilliant moderation and the panel. Brilliant, brilliant. At this juncture, I will invite the next session moderator, Arafat, not DJ Arafat, but Arafat 𝗙𝗘𝗕𝗓. Please come and introduce your panel. Be rest assured that there is a drafting team that is capturing all the inputs that you are making, so that soon after this conversation, the outcome statement will be ready. Somebody will be presenting it. So your contributions are being noted. So this session now, we are now going to hear the reflections from the countries. DJ Arafat, please come and take the floor. Please, may you put those two chairs also on the stage, this side and that side, because we don't want other country representatives to feel like they are relegated. The way the Security Council is to say we have permanent members, then these provisional ones will come and leave once in a while. So everyone needs to be on the high table there, the six of them. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So, as I'm part of a DJ. So my name is Arafat 𝗙𝗘𝗓, and I'm a National Youth Delegate under the Commonwealth Youth Council, but also the Executive Coordinator for Tanzania MICHEZO Youth Awards and Affairs Transformation. So we'll be having a next panel, and this panel will be more about young people specifically, and I would like to call the following vibrant young people and amazing young people on the stage. I believe they are not only young people inside here, even the adults are also young in heart. Yeah, so by starting, I would like to have Esther Lipo from South Sudan. Followed by my neighbor country, Millicent Nasrian from Kenya. Proudly to have our people from Uganda, Hassan Kivumbi. Also having Hastin Banda from Malawi. I also like to have 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 from Zambia. And last but not least, I would like to welcome my fellow young person from Tanzania, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏. So before we start, this is a youth session, and I see people are now having heavy tea into their stomach. You're still digesting, so can we all stand up? I know you have been sitting a lot with your next neighbor, and maybe you don't even know how his name possibly. So just few minutes, just ask your neighbor the name and one thing that he or she likes the most. Okay, thank you very much. At least now I know you have a new name, your neighbor. And I want to put a disclaimer that, hello, if you can hear me, clap your hands. Thank you very much. At least we may sit down. At least now we have you have one name for your neighbor. But my disclaimer is the thing that you ask, what he or she likes the most, we are not able to provide that by the end of the session. So make sure, as a neighbor, to really make that wish for your neighbor be successful by the end of the week, hopefully. So by starting, we'd like to give a 1 minute to the panel. We'll start by here, my dear brother, then we'll finish with Paul. Just 1 minute to get to know about yourself. Like, who are you, where you come from, and yeah, just a short brief about yourself. I know that we have 2 mics, so please feel comfortable.
I don't know if it's still morning.
Yeah, still morning.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏, the way you write the word like. That's my name. Coming from Zambia, I'm a 3rd-year law student. I'm a staunch human rights activist generally, but specifically, I like to talk about children's rights. I'm representing Media Network on Child Rights and Development. Also a former Youth Council President for Children International Zambia. Thank you very much.
I guess I don't need to introduce myself again. But Millicent Naseran, from Kenya. And what else? Maybe something you don't know about me. My name Naseran means the peaceful one. So I love being in conversations on peace and a bit concerned about our country, Kenya, because of what is happening right now with the unstable political environment. But nevertheless, we pray things are going to be well. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hastings J. Panda. I am from Malawi. I am a group leader of youth who are implementing a campaign called Shift under Save the Children, Malawi Country Office. I am also working with, of course, the Malawi government in the Ministry of Natural Resources and Climate Change. I am also an environmental advocate under the National Youth Council. I mean, National Youth Network on Climate Change. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is 𝗙𝗛𝗓𝗕, the former chairperson of Children Parliament in South Sudan. So it's a privilege for me to be here today. So this, let me say, this is my dream since 2016. So I really have that pity that I want to stand and talk in behalf of girls, and I really thank God that now we are trying to program a program of girls for positive transformation in South Sudan, and I'm the chairperson of Girls for Positive Transformation, talking about how we can stop harassment, because it's really something that hurts a lot of girls. So from my heart, I'm saying that I want to stop that and to make sure that girls are capable. Girls are not only to be harassed, but they are there to raise their voice.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Called Hassan Chingombi. My PhD attached to Namamba Center 3, that is Wakiso, Uganda. I'm also a coordinator, youth coordinator in where I come from, that is Namayamba sub-county. And I'm also a group leader for Shift, that is a new program from Save the Children. And I was happy that it started in Uganda. I've got my friend from Malawi. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, because as youth, we have challenges. As youth in Uganda, we have many challenges, but at least we want those challenges to be tackled, so that these government leaders could help our youth down there in Uganda. Thank you.
So as the host of all these fellow peers, my name is 𝗙𝗧𝗘𝗕𝗓𝗢. I'm the former speaker of the East African Youth Parliament, led 7 countries with over billions of young people as a representative for all their voices. Within my parliament, human capital and investment was quite a significant topic that we wanted to address. So being here with fellow young people is pretty much a significant aspect in this conversation. Apart from that, I am a political economist, I'm a communicator, I'm an advocate for youth and the SDGs, and I represent the young people at the European External Action Service with my project, Our Voice, Our Future, that has reached approximately 75 million young people across the globe through social media. So being here and continuing the conversation is a highlight of this moment, and I am thankful to the organizers. Thank you, Lois, thank you to Save the Children and everyone from the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a nice introduction. And for this say, I can call it, it's a junior or youth head of state session. Since we have the youth from different countries, so this can also be a head of state young people session. So as to start, I want to just get a grasp from you all in just 1 minute. How can you define the human development capital as a youth, or what are the aspirations? Does it mean when it comes to human development capital in youth side? We can start with Paul, then move it down.
For me, when I speak about human capital, the main ethos of my beliefs stand in protection, engagement, empowerment, and education. These are 4 pillars that I consecutively work in. Human capital in Africa is a platform to protect young people. Why? When we invest in young people, it encompasses them to kind of have the ability to protect themselves in terms of human rights, in terms of being civic participation, in terms of knowing how they want to approach their future, and in terms of jobs and things like that. When we talk about how do we, human capital, it's also a part to engage young people. And that's why we are all here having this conversation today. Because we want, as young people, to be engaged in the policies, in the aspects, in the implementation of how we want to grow human capital and advance it for sustainability. But also, for me, human capital is about empowerment. How do we want, how we want the future of young people, the future generations to reach their goals and their aspirations, and that's why we're having discussions today. So, and lastly, human capital to me is all about education, and that's why we are opting to leave no one behind. We are looking forward to inclusive, transformative, equitable, quality education that encompasses young people to gear for now and the future, and that is why, for me, human capital is our voice and it is our future.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. To me, human capital, these are knowledge. Knowledge whereby that it lies in quality education. Human capital can also be in health, that is providing quality health care to young people. Then human capital can also be in schools, like providing technical and vocational skills to young people, and those knowledge, health, and skills it's embodied to young people so that they can be productive in life. And also, human capital, it can be all those goals whereby they are given to young people so that they can live a better life. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again. To me, human capital is the starting point, or is the starting way that I have started now and I'm not going to stop. Because it gives more impact, it engages in me a lot. Because if now, as I said, our sister before he said that there is a project but no one is supporting. But through human capital today, I will say even though no one is supporting me, I know that ahead I will get people who will support me. So it gives us that energy on how we can really raise up, that energy on how we can create things. Because I believe that only the people that can create or can get change in a community, in a country, is only youth. I believe that if we give opportunities to youth to have a space to be productive, I think youth are the key to transformation. And through human capital, we will do that. If we give them to have a space in a community, they can bring a global world to be in a very productive way and give us really a good image outside there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For me, the human capital would briefly mean the skills, knowledge, and experience that is possessed by an individual, which is of value to either an organization or a country. So we are not just looking at the skills that one has, we are not just looking at the knowledge, we are not only looking at the experience, but it should also have value to an organization or to a nation. And this is now hand in hand with the issue of quality education, because that's the basic, that's the foundation of acquiring the knowledge, that's the foundation of acquiring the skills. Now we are now looking at how is our education system that we have trying to push for accessing these skills, accessing this knowledge, and giving practical experience to young people to access that value that they can have to support development agenda of either a country, or at regional, or even at continental level at large. So briefly, that's human capital in my understanding. Thank you.
When I think about human capital, three things come to my mind. I think about accessibility, I think about potential, and I think about the future. And that for me is human capital. Thank you.
for me, human capital is basically ingenuity of we humans to be able to do certain things from nowhere. And I think the bottom line, as already been put, it's all based on education, the quality of education that is being taught or that is being given to us. And for a long time, I don't know about other countries, but it is high time that we start changing the education system to suit the needs for today. And as we begin our conversations, I think we should border much on, we should emphasize more on ensuring that our education system is perfected. It shouldn't be memory-based, and by the end of the day, we're going to have young people in this context who are innovative, and on top of that, who are entrepreneurial in nature. So for me, that is human capital development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that was very insightful, and I got a lot of key terminology. When you're talking about human capital to young people, we are talking more about empowerment, security, education skills, energy, creativeness, but also potential for seeing the future. So coming back to you all, I want to take a moment, just close your eyes for 1 second and think about when you are a child, from a grown up, like you are a child until today. Based on your story or your experiences, how have you been prepared to reach, to be where who you are now when it comes to human capital as a young person? Like, how do you think, like nowadays when you go to Tanzania, when you go to Kenya, they take you as a value to contribute to economic or even social development, even a political development at that aspect. So I want to get those kind of experiences based on your experience from the childhood level until now who you are. What things have been passing through, what prepares you to become who you are now today. So we can start with Esther from Sudan.
Okay, thank you. So for me, like from when I was younger, it's like things are not going all that well, as I have said from before. So it's come to my mind that how can I reach really the stakeholders or the decision makers? They are there to create decisions while not asking our view. How are we feeling towards such things like this? So we are really facing a lot of challenges, but once we raise up, they just pull us down. So I said, why will I sleep? I have to raise up. What will I do to make sure that really I sound loudly to make sure that they hear the voice of voiceless? That's why you see today I'm here. I really give thanks to God, because this is all my dream that I'm going through. As I've said, from 2016, I'm really working hard that I want to make sure that I really reach the message to them, and I'm sure that it's going to reach them. And the second thing is that I have to give thanks to Save the Children and also Wellbank for working with us. As girls, they are not leaving us alone. They are really working with us hand to hand to make sure that really we have a space and be productive and giving out the message that really others in need of it. Especially in my country, what I am talking about, sexual harassment, lead to extent whereby girls are dying in silence. Yet they have the voice to stand and talk. Yet they have the voice to say, no, I don't want this one. But because they are being harassed, because no one is taking action in what they are giving out, that's why today I say that I have to stand. I have to speak in their behalf. I have to say no for those who are really keeping quiet. And I have to talk in behalf of those who are voiceless. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's really a big privilege for me to be here. And I appreciate the organizing committee. I appreciate the World Bank for organizing such a wonderful and very important meeting. And I hope for everyone who are here, please, if you are going to your country, you have to take this message with you. You have to go and give to those who are not here, because we are the key to those who are not here, and we are the one to give them the message so that they know. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Esther. So what I get from Esther is more about courage, more about advocacy, like those kind of a passion that she came up to be very strong, to really advocate to what she's believing. So going back to Hastings Banda, yeah. What do you think on that question? And for example, what kind of skills that maybe you have been receiving from the childhood till today that makes you to be more advantageous to support development countries such as Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for me, one key experience and something maybe that has motivated me, that has driven me forward is persistence. My background is that I'm from a very remote area in Malawi, where my parents are farmers. So I attended my primary education from an institution where we had all those challenges that our education system has. So they were, until recently, there's high teacher-to-learner ratio. It's very high. And then the education poverty in whole, like resources and even the skills of the teachers, is so limited. So that right from the start, I think it has been paining me so much. But then I was determined to be a change, to isolate myself from the rest of the communities, at least to drive the change for my country as whole, and specifically my area where I am from. So it has opened like a miracle from an institution where, from a primary education, from a primary school where nobody was being selected to a boarding secondary school, to a secondary school. I stood up and got selected, and then from there I was also among the few individuals that managed to attend tertiary education from an institution which had a lot of challenges. So I was determined to say I am going to reach the higher levels where I can have the chance to stand and voice out and drive the change that I want to see in my communities. So that has been my aim, that has been my vision, to see and at least have the clear pictures of what are the obstacles from the higher level, and then also suggest from my perspectives, from my experience, what we can do as a country, what we can do as a nation and as a region and as a continent at home. Because I know that these challenges that I've experienced throughout my education life, it's also evident in most of the African countries. So it's similar challenges. Now, if I'm advocating for quality education in my country, it means I'm also advocating for quality education in a neighboring country in sub-Saharan African countries as a whole. So persistence, vision-oriented. These are some of the things that have pushed me forward to do the higher levels, and now standing here trying to dissect the problems and find solutions to accelerate the development of Africa as a continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to hear also from Millicent from Kenya.
My story started back. I am from a pastoralist community. I'm from the Maasai of Kenya. So I've grown up in an environment which is very remote. If you've heard of Masai Mara in Kenya, that is where I have grown up. It was difficult going to school, but one thing that I think steered me was that my mom was a nursery school teacher. So she was my first point of inspiration. It was tough because most of my classmates would drop out of school, undergo FGM, and then get married. They're married off, or some of them would get pregnant, the teenage pregnancies and the early pregnancies, and they would drop out of school. So I remember one day my classmate, when we were in class 3, my classmate came to school and she said she's getting married off, like in 2 days. So
it triggered me. I loved her. She was my friend. We used to do mathematics together. So I felt very bad because of that situation. And I tried by all means to see how we could engage the school so we can save her. So we tried our best, and then that day when she was being married off, police were sent to her place and her parents were arrested. So it was my first point of inspiration. I was like, if this can happen to my friends, then I need to do something to change it. And I didn't want my story to turn out like that. As much as maybe our family, most of them were exposed to FGM, we were lucky that our mom was a bit knowledgeable, so she didn't go through FGM, or she saved us from that. But nevertheless, it gave me an inspiration that I have to stand up for the rights of the ones I love. I have to stand up for the rights of my community, and especially the girls in my community. And that steered me to leadership, because slowly by slowly I went into leadership positions, and it gave me a negotiating power to now know that you don't have to keep quiet, you can speak about it and help will come. So all the way to university, did a bit of advocacy and went into student leadership in university. And I think education and mentorship have been my biggest to this point. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. A follow-up question to you, Kenya. I know today from the morning presentation we had one of the things that Kenya has been one of the countries that has been utilized more of human capital and has been increasing that side. Based on your knowledge or experiences, what did Kenya do that other countries can learn to increase the human capital development in Kenya?
I think number one is accessibility to education. Because one of the greatest things our government has invested in is education. They have tried to the grassroots level that each and every place, no matter how remote, no matter how interior, children have access to education. And they actually say that if you're a parent and you do not take your children to school, then a legal action will be taken upon you. So I think that was the first step our country took to actually steer human capital development, because education is the root of everything. And then something else that maybe our country tried to do was development in terms of health. Because if you look at maybe our past regime and maybe even our current, they have maximized majorly on health, especially on maternal health, because that is where it was beginning from. You find that mothers were having difficulties giving birth, and then no accessibility of health facilities in the areas. So our country has really tried in putting up health facilities and also giving parents, mothers, accessibility to that. So I think that was one of also the contributing factors. Something else to look at is the policies kept in place, especially for the marginalized communities and the marginalized groups of people. By marginalized, I'm speaking on behalf of the youth and women, because if you look at maybe, for example, the tailoring process in Kenya, the tailoring process gives an opportunity to youth and women. There is a specific sector of it that basically those tenders are given to the youth and women. So they have taken a keen note of the special groups, and they're trying to steer them in the better path. Something else I think is accessibility to the basic things like electricity, like technology, which has basically steered so many of us, because I feel like currently so many young people work online, either through writing, either through AI, or even in their own things they do online, like social media. You'll find like Kenya is very big on social media and social media influencers. So I think it's a progress, but the government is also supportive of it.
Thank you very much. I want also to hear from Paul, then Paul. In terms of your experiences, what takes you to be who you are now? In terms of skills, exposure, that maybe we can utilize, or maybe the head of state can think about how to scale those kind of issues.
I think much has already been said because I have this saying that we are all alike and we are different. So if you look at that context, a youth in Malawi can face similar problems like a youth in Tanzania. A youth in Congo can face similar problems like a youth in Kenya. So we are all more alike than we are different. And one thing that changed my view on life and youth agency and leadership was when I was in primary school, I realized that I had more opportunities because I went to a private school. So I realized that I had more opportunities and extracurricular activities and more tutoring time than my peers who went to public schools. And at that time, public schools had not much investment in terms of quality education. And I realized thereon that, okay, Paul, you are fortunate to have better learning conditions. You are fortunate to have running water and clean bathrooms in your school. Not every kid has that opportunity. And you're more exposed to teachers and guidance counselors who listen to you and take note of your problems, whether you're facing mental issues or whether you need some tutoring time for math lessons, that kind of thing. So I knew earlier on that my friends at home who went to public schools did not have such privileges. So I always wanted to do something for them, and I always wanted to share the little bit that I had with them. And it created a sense where I founded the volunteer club at my primary school, and I went with that idea all the way to high school. So youth agency can come from any form. Inspiration can come from any form. I realized that my privileges were someone else's shortcomings. So how did I want to create a sense of equality or equity? I had to invest in people, invest in my peers, work towards building a more collective action where they could also feel that their learning conditions are a safe space. So I used whatever means that I could and advocated for my school to actually contribute, be it footballs, be it compass, be it stationary materials, to the schools that my friends went to. And that kind of led to an initiative that I've always taken at heart. And that is why I advocate for education, because I think education plays a vital role on someone's upbringing. It shapes our discipline, it shapes our destiny, it shapes our confidence as young people, and it overall kind of makes us better in decision making. So my agency started from learning of my privileges and others' inequity, and that has been the foundation of why I'm a youth advocate. And I don't think you ever leave being a youth advocate, even if you grow old. I think it's something that keeps going because you have the heart to just share, the heart to fight, the heart to speak on behalf, and the heart to give. And I think most of us here in this room, we share similar experiences because we have the heart to speak for others. We have the heart to work towards creating a better world. Regardless of the challenges that we face, we are more alike than we are different.
Thank you very much. And that reminds me that I once went to Uganda, so I remember His Excellency Museveni, President, the one said that he's still a youth until he died. So until he dies, he will be still a young person. But currently he's a young person in heart, so we'll continue to be a youth advocate. So coming back to 𝗙𝗘𝗄𝗧𝗏, so I want to get from your perspective. Speaking about mobility, are youth prepared to move from one country to other country to secure jobs or having survival?
Yes. I think we've got the necessary tools as young people to adapt to different working conditions in different countries. And one of the tools that is readily available is the internet. And I think if we can harness the power of internet as young people, use it positively, it can help us learn or acquire skills via it that can make us adapt when we want to work in other countries like Tanzania, and maybe we want to go to yeah. And the other thing I feel is very important is our education system. When I was coming here, I was able to read Swahili, but I can't understand it. But because of the way our education system in Zambia is structured, I'm able to read most of the languages. I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay, because they sound the same. And if we as a region, or we as Africa, can find a way of trying as much as possible to bring certain things together, maybe like a curriculum that benefits everyone as a region, so that when I come here I don't have to suffer to relearn how to understand the language or how to read it. It will be very important. So I think also the education system can play a pivotal role, and I think that is the direction that we should continue moving towards. And by the end of the day, we're going to have a connected Africa, or a global village where everyone is one, regardless of where they are coming from. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I also want to hear from Hassan, the same question. Like, do you think the youth of today, are they really prepared to secure jobs across African continent, or even like having a survival across Africa?
Okay, thank you. Relating to where I come from, Uganda, youth are coming from different countries then to Uganda, because I've got a chance of, at least I would coordinate with some of them or have some communication with them. You could hear from them that they have not found any problem while entering in Uganda, most especially the East African community. You could hear them that getting a job in Uganda is easy. I was like, I asked her, because I got a friend of mine who was a Kenyan. He came from Kenya just to work in Uganda. I told her, did you get any problem over any challenges while accessing that job you are having? Because they're having a job, yet we know those people who came from outside, we always call them investor. But you could find an investor having a job of an ordinary person. But I told her, do you find any challenge? She told me, no. They treated me as the same Ugandan, as a Ugandan. But I asked him, but do you really feel like you are bound to get this job, or you are bribed to get this job? He told me, my friend, don't go beyond that. But I used my small money I had to get this casting. But I told him, do you think it is a right thing? Because at first you told me that getting a job in Uganda is simple. What he was meaning, that if you put in some money, you could get a job. So, to my understanding, I was like, maybe he put in some calipo one, but that thing to me, it was bad. That person is still there in Uganda. He's doing well. I don't know whether he has documents. I don't know whether he do what, but due to the other side part of it, is enjoying Uganda. But for me, I would prefer, or I would like the government, at least when they have said that the East African community or the African community have this and this and this and this paperwork to get this and this and this and this. Let that be. But don't at least go and tell someone that you bring this and this and this in my office, put it in the envelope, and you bring and I work on you. That one at least. Then for the case of other youth, I don't know whether youth from Uganda to other countries do the same, because maybe this is my first time to travel. I don't know over the same structure, but government in Uganda has all the protocols which we must follow while entering the country. But you know, these other people, there are some small people there who always make the system bad. Are the people who always make all those stupid things. Sorry to call it stupid, but those things, because it always annoys. It annoys, and you find all the sectors. For example, education has become a problem in Uganda because of those small things. Because I've experienced, or I've seen some of my friends, they were accessing for scholarship, government scholarship after secondary level. But you could hear them saying that, man, they have not got a scholarship. The other guy wants this and this and this. When it comes to ladies, that the guy who is there is telling me to do this and this and this, which I don't want to do. You see all those things, but the government is releasing all those documents, that all those scholarships that you give them to those to young people. But those people who always there, where those documents always come, they are the problem. And I don't know, good enough we shall have the heads of states, they will go and at least see how they can help us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so what I get from my dear leader here is like first there is issue of corruption. There is issue of system. The system that we have today, is it really making young people conducive environment to take jobs across the country? But the other thing that I get is about, and I think it's not about only you, but we also sometimes even in Tanzania we feel the same, like there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of people who come from other countries to get jobs in Tanzania, and we are still here. And we have a huge percent of unemployed young people. So it's also the same when a person from Tanzania goes to other country, it's easy to get a job. So it's something that a question that we need to pose to ourselves, like what is an issue for ourselves? What's an issue here when it comes to jobs? Is it about accessibility of the job? Is it about the qualification? Is it about the system that employs these young people, that really make challenge to these young people now today to access jobs? Yes, I think you want to add on that thing.
Yeah, it's relating to the same question and what Ms. From saying. I think it is high time for us to make sure that young people are able to access jobs across countries if we're able to tap into the power of entrepreneurship. I've seen a lot of young people from Tanzania, from Malawi, Zimbabwe, who come into Zambia and establish themselves fully because they've harnessed the power of entrepreneurship. And I think if we go that route as a continent, we'll be able to survive everywhere. So this is a wake-up call to everyone here, especially the young people. Let us not always want to look for white-collar jobs, like being a lawyer like me, but let us try as much as possible to harness the power of entrepreneurship. It will be easy for you everywhere where you go. There's this man, he's from Kenya. I come from the slums. The compound, the ones I call it slums, is just my neighbor. He's into agriculture, but it is a way of entrepreneurship. He's lived in Zambia more than my years, but he survived through entrepreneurship from the time he came, I think in the 70s, I don't know when. So you can see that entrepreneurship can make you survive in any country that you go to. instead of you wanting to always be behind the desk and pressing a keyboard. So I think when we harness the power of entrepreneurship, it will be easy for us as young people. So this is where now the governments need to come hand in hand, work together and find means and ways of how they can help these people when they come into these countries in terms of them acquiring trading certificates or licenses so that it's easy for them to survive if they've got an entrepreneurship idea. So let us harness the power of entrepreneurship. It will be easy.
Thank you very much for bringing up the entrepreneurship part. And I really love in terms when it comes to investing in entrepreneurship. But yet, we still need to have a follow-up question, the same question. The person who can do entrepreneurship in your country, in Tanzania, likely may be very easy for him. But the same person to do the entrepreneurship in his own country might have a challenge. So that's another thing that we also need to clearly continue thinking beyond, like, is it also policy issues when it comes to investment, when it comes to entrepreneurship? What another thing that really has a challenge? Coming back to that, I want also to pose a question to anyone. What are the key economic sectors that African government or institutions should ensure meaningful engagement and invest on youth inclusivity? Like, what are the key top priorities of economic sector that maybe the African government state should really think about young people on those sectors so that we can utilize the human capital? Yes, Paul, you can start.
My 2 cents would fall on investing more in the microeconomic sector, because small medium enterprises, especially for us young people, are all, for women and young people, are all centered on the microeconomy. When governments see the lucrative power of the microeconomic sector, then they will be able to build more entrepreneurship accessibility for women and youth. And that also kind of creates a ripple effect where youth will be able to employ each other via startups and SMEs, but also women will be able to take each other further through women groups and women businesses. Another economic sector that I think governments need to undertake is finance. As African states, we need to rethink and restructure our financial sectors, because they have been slagging behind in comparison to our Western brothers and sisters. Why finance? It is crucial for governments to look at finance as a way where, not just by lending or grant, but also as a way to improve people's lives. When a young person goes and seeks for a loan, I'm sure all of us have seen this. We always struggle through a lot of complexities that are there. And we want to, and you have a business idea, you have a great business plan, you have everything in order, but there's a lot of bureaucracy that you have to go through in order to get this even small loan. So I think if governments really want to tap in the power of not just in advancing human capital, but also investing in human capital, they need to finance. Localized financing for women and youth in order to advance the human capital, because by then we will be able to empower each other and employ each other and kind of limit unemployment. Another thing just to add up is structural capacity, institutional capacity. We can speak all about human capital and yada yada yada, but if our institutions do not have the capacity to work towards building our common agenda to advance the AFCFTA, open borders, open trade, open regional blocks, trade globally, then human capital in Africa will not be sustainable. Why? And I think this is a crucial point for me. If I was to address presidents today in front of me, I would tell them they need to rethink institutional structures. As Africans, we are all one. Yeah, we are all one, and we need to think strategically approach human capital in the AFCA as one. Because when you're thinking Agenda 2063, it's also it encompasses human capital. So I think restructuring, rethinking, relearning, financing, and ensuring that our institutions have enough capacity to sustain for us to advance to the future.
Thank you. Any addition to the panel? Yes, Madam.
Okay, thank you. I think one area that our governments can look at is agriculture, because basically I feel like in Africa we have not really utilized our potential in agriculture. One of the problems that we go through is food shortage, and really we have the potential to produce food in Africa, like a very big potential in food production. But our governments have not really invested in agriculture enough. So I think it's high time we make that clarion call to our governments to also support initiatives in agriculture, support agriculture in terms of farmers, in terms of, whatever else they need in terms of fertilizers and what, so that food productivity can go up and agriculture can be fully supported. Something else that I think our governments need to look at is innovation. Innovation is not, okay, I think Africa has not really taken a look at how much innovation can do. For example, AI was recently developed, and so many Kenyans took part in the development of that AI. But if you look at the livelihoods of those Kenyans, they have the potential, but the outside markets are the ones who tapped into them. But is there a Kenyan system really, or a company that this would, okay, so no company in Kenya decided to tap into that market until the outside or the Westerners came in and took that opportunity to use the Kenyans to develop the AI. The same way, if we look at the internet, we have young people who are really brilliant to innovation. People who can develop things, people who can develop like vast things that can help Africa at large, but that is not yet utilized. So also it's a call to our governments to take innovation seriously and support the youth in innovation. Linking into innovation also is revampment of the TVETs colleges and TVETs universities, because that is where it begins. Once you give the youth the skills to actually do their own thing, that is where innovation begins, that is where development of the practical skills begin. So once our governments are able to give the youth such opportunities, then it opens very many doors for them.
Thank you very much. Any sectors, let's just be very short, go direct to the point. One.
Thank you. So just to our government, I would like to say that at least they have to give opportunities to the youth who are within the country, because mostly if we see towards our country, it's the youth are really facing a lot of challenges, because you will see someone is graduate but no, you don't have job opportunity, whereby the country doesn't have trust in the people who are within the country. So at least they have to give job opportunities and also give them opportunity to come out with the ideas that they have, to reach out to others who are there, because also for those who are coming, they will have that trust that if I finish, at least I will have something to do. But if you see someone completed but lack of job opportunity, what are you going to do? That's why if you can see the huge number of youth in our country now is going only taking alcohol, nothing else, because they don't have job opportunity and they don't have opportunity to express out. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any sector remaining?
Yes, thank you. For me, I think the government at least should develop or should put in more emphasis in technical schools. For me, I think that the biggest problem in youth is unemployment. But what has brought unemployment? We young people, we believe that we should work, we should look for those office jobs only. But when governments put a lot of money in technical skills, this problem of unemployment should be kicked out in Africa.
Thank you very much. This was very insightful sector and session. So I think I captured the financial, localization, structural capacity, restructuring, agriculture, innovation and technology, TVET system, and also opportunity to youth. So I want to open a floor to the hall. If there is any question, I will take a maximum of 3, and I will be very encouraging to pick up 2 ladies and 1 man.
Then before, when I come back to the panel, I think just think through only one recommendation that we want to pose to the head of state regarding what can be done. What call of action do you think that it can be taken on board to the next 2 days of summit to head of state? So, the red hand, please.
Okay, good morning everybody.
Good morning.
My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗄𝗄𝗧𝗏. I'm a student from the University of 𝗙𝗪𝗧, second year student. I would just like to add from my fellow there. They have spoken about entrepreneurship. I think the duty bearers, starting from Save the Children, the government, the World Bank, and all other duty bearers, should spur, encourage, and establish policies about freelancing. We have youth, including myself, we are being dependent. Every day we are saying the government should, the government should, the government will. Instead of doing something on our own, we always wait, the government will find me, the government will come and pick me, but we must find something. For example, myself, I'm a social media influencer, I'm also a fashionist, so I'm encouraging my fellows to engage in freelancing. And another thing is, do not let opportunities pass you by. We can see we are nowadays having so many trainings and so forth, for example today, but there are many youths out there who are saying, I'm not in a mood, I don't feel like going there. So do not let opportunities pass you by as long as they are productive, they are positive. Because nowadays, maybe for girls, we are facing so many challenges on these opportunities we are receiving. There are sexual corruptions and others. So as long as the opportunity is productive to you, just go. Don't let it pass you by. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hand to the last table at the back.
Hi, my name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗄𝗧𝗏. By profession, I'm a scientist, and I'm the host of a podcast channel based on climate change. I just want to bring to attention that when addressing institutional restructuring, it's many a times scientific exploration and technology and innovation and research in scientific and technological innovation is often not addressed as much. Because in order to create a scope of opportunity for employment, since many of our youths are unemployed, we need to have investment in this sector to be able to create jobs. It's very often we see that youths these days do not utilize the degree they're specialized in. In fact, they learn skills that help them get employed in a sector that they did not study in. So that's it.
Thank you. One for the back table, the last one.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗄𝗧𝗏, the founder of Alive Research and Project Consultants. I'm an entrepreneur also. Thank you for this conference. What I want to recommend for the African heads of states, one is to ensure provision of health to young. Health is their capital. Without good health, human capital development cannot take place. So the government of Africa can take a number of efforts to ensure that youth have good health so that we can develop them and establish a lot of activities. Second is increase the number of investments where organizations, both government and the private, can take youth and ensure them towards human capital development. Thank you.
Thank you. Table at the front. I think we had a lot of... Okay, two remaining, two at the back, then we have two in front.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very privileged to get this chance. Wow, my name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗄𝗧𝗏. I'm the Global Partnership for Education youth leader from Tanzania, but also Executive Director for 𝗞𝗢𝗡𝗖𝗄𝗎𝗓 Foundation. I actually wanted to just stress on what my brother there have said about the issue of education poverty. and as a champion for education, I've seen this as a real issue when it comes to human capital. And I've already experienced it as well. And you know, we have been studying from the level of primary to universities, but all of us are here and we can testify that we have just used our own efforts to be where we are or doing the work or job that we are doing right now. It's not only about the education that we got from the school. So I think there is a need of working on our curriculum, speaking of the technical skills, because right now you might just try to hire a financial officer. But what is happening is you find a person with a bachelor degree of banking and finance, but doesn't know how to use Excel. Can you imagine? Microsoft Excel. You reach a point we had to announce that we want a person who can use Excel, rating from 8 to 10. Because once you announce that you want a finance officer, it's so hard to get that person. Because of the skills that we get in the university does not, or is not relevant to what is we are going to face in the community or in the job areas. So that was my point, that our curriculums should have or provide that technical skills. Yes.
Thank you. Two last hands at the front. I think the mic should come here.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗘𝗕𝗕𝗢. I'm a youth sounding body member to the Embassy of Switzerland in Tanzania. Thank you for the fruitful discussion I've been following. But my recommendation is that all of the voice that young people we have been pushing should be taken into consideration, since nothing for us without us. And if young people are united and their voice are taken into consideration, together we can ensure there will be a better place for everyone to stay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At the front we have one. No, this is a youth at heart, so I will.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is 𝗙𝗔𝗖𝗘𝗕𝗎𝗢, Group CEO for KONCEPT, and also chairman.
It's youth sensitive, so it's not youth people. It's only speaking for you.
Hello. Yes, once again, my name is 𝗙𝗪𝗡𝗙𝗪, Group CEO KONCEPT from Tanzania, and also I'm the chairman for Young CEOs Forum, and also I'm the student for MBA in Artificial Intelligence. So my question is based on this digital transformation. How, as we youth, we are prepared for this digital transformation? Most of the speakers now are talking about AI, and as this is my part of expertise. So, what are our plans for as we youth in Africa? We prepared for this artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and as I want to emphasize for the digital literacy. Most of the people now are thinking about artificial intelligence, digital transformation, but they don't have that access of technology and also digital literacy. So what is our plans for us? We can discuss and how way forward from this one. Thank you.
Can I have one on that table with the last one?
Okay, I'll oblige.
It's okay.
My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗔𝗡𝗙. I'm a peer educator from there. I came here to represent Dreams program. I would like to ask something on entrepreneurship. Most of you are very scared and afraid that I don't have capital, I don't have anything. I want to remind you something, there's power in collaborating. You can find two friends of yours and do something. We all have something in our chest. Don't just wait, oh, I'm unemployed, oh, what. You can do something. There is something inside of you. Then rise up and do something. Yeah. Actually, I'm not educated, I didn't go to school, but I use what I have inside of me to do something. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I know we only have one question on the table from Mr. there. So, who can respond that question? Just want to know first.
Which was for the
AI? For the AI.
Okay.
And as you are responding, please sum up by one statement call of action.
Oh my God, Arafat. Okay, the gentleman with the AI question, I think we're all interested in that topic at the moment. But one thing that I would like to stress on, as I've said before, our institutions, meaning government and stakeholders, need to localize our policies in order to meet the demands of the ongoing AI revolution. So if governments of maybe Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and other parts of the continent try to localize these policies to innovate young people, to fund young people, to learn what's going on in AI, then we can be able to leverage that power of artificial intelligence. But also we need to equip our young people to be ready for the 4th industrial revolution, which also encompasses AI. So I think it's not only, this doesn't only fall for the government, it also falls with us young people, to also to try to tap in the power of learning AI and learning new skills and adapting to the 4th industrial revolution. To sum up my conclusion to the heads of state and other peers as we're here, there is, as someone spoke about, the power of collaboration. If we want to move forward in terms of human capital and advance the SDGs and advance the Agenda 2063 and the AFCFTA and open our borders for trade and leverage the power of our Pan-Africanism, we need to collaborate as Africans and African governments. We need to speak one language. And by language, I don't mean, you know, Swahili or French or anything, but I mean our policies need to reflect the current aspect of what we are going through. So collaboration, localization, and marching together as one Africa. That's how we're going to increase and advance human capital in Africa.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. To me, I would like the government, the World for Action. For me, my emphasis, I want government to invest more in technical skills. Well, why I like technical skills? Because there are times when you see my fellow young people are there down. They have nothing to do. They are not educated. They don't have papers, but they think they can do any technical skill which will come on their hand. For me, I think that if the government put in more money while promoting technical skills, I know young people shall solve that problem of unemployment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it will add also technical and vocational skills. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to say, only all of us have spoken. So what we have said here, let it be put into the consideration. So that next time, if we are coming to meet here, at least we are coming to talk about something else, not the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe what back in 17 will have a monitoring framework for this session. Yes?
Thank you very much. I think in 2063, it will be another generation sitting here and discussing and questioning what we have done for the 2063 African agenda. Are we prepared to answer the questions and take responsibility of our actions? This is not only for us to sit here and agree to present what we want to our readers, but also take the responsibility of being in the forefront to implement the agenda so that we are accountable of our actions and able to stand before the generation that is coming and defend our actions without fear of what we have done. So, before I make my recommendation to the African heads of state, I want to make an appeal to us as the youth to take full responsibility of the agenda and be in the forefront to implement and make sure that the heads of state are accountable of their actions, because they will not be the ones to answer. It will be us to answer what we have done and what we have done with the agenda. Secondly, it's high time as an African continent to think revolutionary. If we have progress, if we have one agenda, let us also speak the same language, as my friend has put it. Let's tap the potentials from each country. The failure of Kenya to achieve Agenda 63 is also the failure of Malawi. is also the fate of Sudan. So let's all collaborate. Let's think revolutionary. Let's not create boundaries within Africa.
Thank you very much.
I've not yet made sorry, I think I have a lot to say. But you can get and visualize what I'm driving at. To the African heads of state, I think it's high time to shift the power in a faithful way to the youth. We don't only need youth representations in decision-making tables, as voicing the policy saying that we had the youth, this and that. No, but they should also be implementers, active implementers of the decisions that we have made. I wanted to give a scenario or a case study of the shift model that Save the Children is doing, but maybe with the interest of time, I'll not give that. But that's a model of how the youth can be empowered and the human capital concept as a whole can be improved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mine would be to make a call to action. It's a call to action to all of us. What are you doing in your capacity to advance yourself in terms of human capital? Or even to the people around you, what are you doing in your capacity to elevate that angle? We've had the discussion here, okay, but in your small space or in your little capacity, what are you going to do towards that? Again, now to our heads of state. The African heads of state promise a lot during their campaigns, and they tell us all manner of things about how they are going to make the youth benefit from every other sector that they are going to have, or whatever budgets they are going to have. But do they implement? That's the question. Do they implement? So we need to see the heads of state implementing or putting into action whatever they have said they are going to give us. And we need them to believe in the power of the youth, because we, the youth of Africa, are very capable to steer our continent forward to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For me, the bottom line is the legislature. I think my call to action for the heads of state is that they should find common grounds of how we can put them into account. We can bring them into. We can put them into accountable, or we can put them. Yes. So that. We should have an aspect of enforcing what they tell us, because they are very much good at putting things on the paper, and at the end of the day, even if they don't do it, we cannot take them somewhere. So I think when we find a way, when everything is discussed, there is some form of enforceability and accountability, so that by the end of the day, they are answerable to us. I think it will be very good. If not, we just keep discussing and discussing, minus bearing any results.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause to the panel discussion today. And I'm very, very, very delightful to thank you all for having me, having you all on this table and the high stage. And by this, I want to sum up this session. How many of us are we in social media? Hands, please. I know being accountable is raise your hand fast. So if you are all in social media, I want to have one thing, a key takeaway for you. So take a selfie of yourself or with your neighbor. Do you remember I said when you start the session? So take a selfie with your neighbor and write one call of action that you really want to pose to the head of state, and tag the following people. First is one thing. Secondly, it's your president.
Wait.
I know you're coming from African countries, so make sure you tag your president. I know some of you like our Honorable Mama Samia, so you can also tag her. But if you are coming from Kenya, Sudan, please tag your president. Then also tag Save the Children and post that If it's a Twitter, if it's an Instagram, please post. You can also tag me I'm Arafat. And by the end of the session, maybe we might have something for the winner. We don't know. I cannot say. But I'm very thankful to have you, and I want to allow you to go back to our table. And thank you, everyone. Let's have a round of applause to everyone. Thank you.
Shall we have a round of applause for DJ Arafat? Thank you so much. I think the photo has been taken, yeah? I want to introduce the last session. It cannot be a valid photo without the session moderator. So, Rira. Thank you so much. I think we're now at the end of our conversation. So we shall have the drafting team that was sitting around with good grammar, trying to capture all your writings into this good, succinct document. But we know I'm a scholar myself. In academia, you don't finish writing, you abandon. So I'm hoping that we're abandoning here with a very good draft that resonates with the aspirations that we have. To moderate this session, I want to invite Sylvia. Sylvia, our host from Tanzania, please help us. We know that there is a good grammar at 𝗙𝗏𝗏 University, and I hope it will be resonated within the statement that will be read. Clap hands for Sylvia as she comes to. Please, over to you.
Hello, young people. How are you? Can we stretch a bit? Let's stand up and stretch a bit, just for a minute. You can turn around and say hi to your neighbors. Thank you so much. We can go back to the room now. Habari. My name is 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗕, and I'm a youth advocate. I am a Programs and Communication Officer from Global Peace Foundation Tanzania, but I'm also a member of the AU Youth Reference Committee. And as a young person, I'm also passionate about advocating for the community, but especially young people. As we can see, we have seen the energy, the willingness. We are all ready. We are ready for all the things that we are appealing to, but also for all the things that we are calling for actions from our heads of states. Before I start my session, I would love to get some key takeaways from maybe a few tables. In one word, we have had a long conversation since morning. We have had panels. We have had conversations, presentations from different stakeholders. So what's your key takeaway? What was the most important thing that you think we should leave with here?
Hello. Hello. Thank you. My name is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm from Tima, Tanzania. I am Gender and Youth Advisor, UNCG Fiangu. The key take home for today is that us and the youth, we need to take this and to be ambassador to our fellow youth outside there. So we need to take this a message to other youth outside there, especially those youth from rural areas. We see we have different projects, programs, but most of these programs only work on the urban areas, but you have people or youth from rural areas, yeah. So,
thank you so much. And I don't think we're forgetting people, but like you said, from this meeting, the few of us who have got the privilege to attend, to have our inputs, let's be champions and communicate what we have learned or achieved from this conversation into the grassroots level. I think that's why we're here. We cannot always be on the same table, but at least we can play our part in taking it back to our fellow young people. This table, in one word, not a sentence, just one word. What's the most important thing?
Build and strengthen institutions. That's very key. Thank you. Zulaiha Ibrahim.
Build and strengthen institutions. This table.
For us, we are more alike than different, but for head of states, they should invest more on agriculture, education, and finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Agriculture, education, and finance. In one word. Yes. What's the most important thing?
I think the most important thing is, yes, we may have our asks to our head of states, but we should not forget that we have a role to play in all of this. Like us as a youth, we should know that we have a role, and we should take our own initiative to participate in a volunteer programs, internship programs, to educate ourselves.
Thank you. I'm doing this purposely. So who's going to represent this table?
My name is 𝗙𝗘𝗄𝗧𝗘𝗕𝗓, and the thing that I take from here is nothing for youth without youth. So as young people, we should participate. When we get the chance to participate and engage in different kind of activities to decide ourselves, we should engage effectively. Yeah.
Effective engagement of young people.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Solomon, and what I've learned from the panel is that we as youth, if we don't involve in the decision making, no one will decide for us. Thank you so much.
Meaningful engagement in decision making tables. This table?
From our table, we go with technical education, because we believe that if the heads of states are going to invest on technical education, especially to youth, we are going to tackle the market, but also we are going to find ourselves more opportunities, but also we have decided on innovation.
Technical skills and innovation. This is also a table. Yes.
So, thank you so much. My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗓, and just to add from this table, just saying about the technical education, we need to invest in soft skills. These are very important, and this should focus specifically on 21st century skills. They cut across almost every seminar that I've been talking about in this room. So I think we need to invest in soft skills on top of the technical education. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last table. Who's representing?
Hello everyone. From this table, we just have one recommendation on the education sector. Once they prepare this budget or their strategy, they have to divide them. We can have two ministries only focus on one education. We have Ministry of Education, we have TAMISEMI. They both focus on education, so we just need one ministry focused on this one. Thank you.
We need one ministry. The last person.
Hello. My name is 𝗙𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓. I'm the founder of 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 Impact Company Limited. I just only have one recommendation to the young people or youth concerning to our topic today. I believe that even if the government is going to create a better environment for us to thrive, so we as young people should learn how to bear to tackle the social problem and to turn them into employment. Even if there will be a good environment, if we don't know to dare, or if we fear to dare, nothing will happen. Thank you.
A round of applause for ourselves. So it seems everyone was in the room, and this has taught me a lesson that we cannot all be panelists, right? But we had few representatives, but also we should harness the opportunities that we get to share our inputs. And that's what I did. We're like 100 in the room, but we cannot all speak. But we can create a bit of time to listen to everyone on what they have, because we might have forgotten some of the things that the few of us who have represented shared. Thank you so much. So for this session, I would love to welcome my sister, Mary Odado from Kenya. She's one of the members who are representing the drafting committee. She's going to present for us the draft statement for the outcome. That's what they've been doing. They've been listening and they've been writing. So in this session, we have to listen very careful on what they have come up with from our conversation. And later we'll have time to, you know, put our inputs on what has been written, say, this is right, this is wrong, we can add this to that. Okay, I don't expect you to come with the wrong thing. Joking, yes, Karibu Mary. So guys, this is just a draft. Once, we need to be very focused to listen to what she's going to present so we can share more of our inputs as she finishes. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. We are young and young at heart. My name is Mary Odado. I come from Kenya. I am the Chief Operations Officer for a youth-led organization called the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. We have our operations in Nairobi, but we work in the Horn of Africa, dealing with matters of peace and security. I'm very honored to be reading this outcome statement this afternoon. And I'm still here saying this is a draft. In case there's a point you feel as though we have left out, kindly let us know. For the outcome statement by the young people on human capital development in Africa, we, the young people of Africa, recognize the crucial role we play as the driving force for change and the future for our continent. We have gathered here today in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, on the 24th July 2023, to discuss and deliberate on the urgent need to prioritize human capital development in Africa. With a deep commitment to shaping the Africa we want, we present this outcome statement reflecting our collective aspirations and calls to action. Recognizing the demographic dividend that the young people present, we the young people are alive to the fact that demography is not destiny, and as such, recognize ourselves as a powerful labor force and asset for African human capital development. Further, we are cognizant of the role we can and should be playing to accelerate Africa's development if this power is harnessed. We, the young people, convey our commitment to building a prosperous and inclusive continent, recognizing the crucial role of human capital development in shaping our shared future. We bring forth the collective aspirations and opportunities that lie within our grasp. We, the young people, acknowledge the efforts of the African institutional architecture placed by our governments to empower its young people and the pivotal role these institutions are playing in shaping the trajectory of human capital development. Yet, we are mindful of the challenges and gaps that persist. Further appreciating the challenges faced by the young people, ranging from conflicts, climate change, inequalities, and socio-economic disparities, we note that these are the growing realities of many young people on the continent. But we're still hopeful of a transformational Africa that is driven by young people who are committed and invested in the accumulation of the human capital through our evolving capacities. Recalling the African Youth Charter and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, both which underscore the importance of children and youth participation and involvement in the continent's development while providing a legal basis for ensuring youth presence and participation in human capital development at national, regional, and continental levels. Also recalling Assembly decisions related to human capital development, including Assembly Decision 591, adopted by the 26th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of the Heads of State and Government held in 2016, and Assembly Decision 753, adopted by the 33rd Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of State and Government in 2020, and a plethora of other children and youth-oriented decisions from the various African Union organs. Faithful to the realization of Agenda 2040 for an Africa that is fit for children, as well as the AU Agenda 2063, particularly Aspiration 6, which strives for an Africa whose development is people-driven, especially relying on the potential offered by its women, children, and youth, where youth unemployment would have been eliminated, and they would have full access to educational training opportunities, health services, recreational and cultural activities, as well as financial means to allow each youth to realize their full potential.
underscoring the crucial role that young people play nationally, regionally, and at the continental level in creating the Africa we want. Therefore, emphasizing that human capital development is sine qua non to the realization of other aspirations of the continent, such as enjoyment of peace, security, and stability, as well as socio-economic development. Affirming that human capital development is the foundation for sustainable development and a catalyst for social, economic, and political progress, we recognize that investing in our young people, particularly the youth, through education, health, skills development, and empowerment is essential for Africa's transformation and the attainment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Acknowledging the multifaceted challenges that hinder human capital development in Africa, these challenges include poverty, inadequate access to quality education and healthcare, unemployment, gender inequality, discrimination, and limited youth engagement and participation opportunities. We recognize that these challenges disproportionately affect marginalized and vulnerable communities, exacerbating the existing inequalities in our societies. As the passionate and determined young people of Africa, we call upon your leadership to address the following critical areas where we see boundless opportunities for positive change and progress on our continent. We urge you to leverage technology and advocate for inclusive education, ensuring that quality learning reaches every corner of our continent. By addressing infrastructural gaps, improving teacher training, and fostering digital learning platforms, we can bridge the education divide and equip our youth with the skills they need to thrive. We appeal for community-driven initiatives that raise awareness about health issues and work towards improved access to healthcare services for all. Strengthening healthcare infrastructure, especially in remote and marginalized areas, and implementing preventative measures will contribute to a healthier and more resilient African population. We implore you to empower our peers with relevant skills and support entrepreneurship to drive economic growth and prosperity. By aligning vocational training with industry needs and fostering an entrepreneurial ecosystem, we can unlock the potential of Africa's youth as drivers of innovation and job creation. We call for unwavering commitment to policies that empower women and challenge gender stereotypes, fostering an inclusive society. By promoting equal access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities, we can unlock the full potential of our women and girls as key agents of positive change. We emphasize the importance of data-driven decision-making in shaping policies and programs. Investing in data collection, analysis, and dissemination will empower evidence-based policy-making to enable targeted and effective interventions to address pressing challenges. We urge you to support innovative solutions that bridge gaps in social protection and safety nets, ensuring that no one is left behind. By fostering social innovation and supporting community-driven initiatives, we can create a more inclusive and equitable society. We call upon you to support and collaborate with young leaders in regions affected by conflict to promote dialogue, understanding, and reconciliation. Empowering youth as peace builders will contribute to sustainable peace and stability across our continent. We seek your support in connecting with our peers worldwide to share experiences, best practices, and collectively advance human capital development. Strengthening global partnerships will enable us to tackle shared challenges and amplify our collective impact. We ask for opportunities to actively engage in shaping policies that drive progress for our continent. By providing platforms for youth voices to be heard and considered in policy formulation, we can foster a more inclusive and responsive governance structure. We seek mentorship and support from government and institutional leaders to empower and uplift one another. Fostering a culture of mentorship will create a nurturing environment for the next generation of African leaders. We recognize the transformative potential of these frameworks in advancing evidence-based decision-making and development planning. To seize this opportunity fully, we call on your support to involve us as grassroots data collectors. We can be able to provide valuable insights to inform the development of comprehensive ontologies that accurately reflect the realities of our communities. We need to invest our digital skills, which will enable us to create user-friendly platforms that enhance data collection, analysis, and dissemination to improve the effectiveness of development initiatives. We also urge you to support our capacity building initiatives that will equip us to develop context-specific ontologies that address the unique challenges and opportunities within our diverse African context. By integrating ontologies into our ventures, we can promote data-driven decision making and maximize development outcomes, leading to more impactful and sustainable solutions. We call upon African governments, regional institutions, and international partners to prioritize and invest in quality, relevant, and inclusive and accessible education at all capacities. This includes enhancing infrastructure, teacher training, curriculum development, and promoting science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We urge governments to ensure that education systems are responsive to the needs of the labor force and the rapidly changing tech landscape. We call for the strengthening of healthcare systems to ensure universal access to quality healthcare services, including sexual and reproductive health services, mental health support, and preventative measures that we would like to put in place. We emphasize the importance of addressing hunger and malnutrition, reducing maternal and child mortality, combating communicable and non-communicable diseases, and promoting holistic well-being. We urge our governments, private sector entities, and civil society organizations to prioritize youth empowerment and create enabling environments for skills development, entrepreneurship, and job creation. This includes expanding vocational training programs, facilitating access to finance and mentorship, promoting digital literacy, and encouraging private and public partnerships to harness the potential of the digital economy. We emphasize the importance of gender equality and social inclusion in human capital development. We call for the removal of barriers that limit the participation and advancement of girls and women and other groups in education, employment, and leadership roles. We urge governments to implement policies and programs that promote gender-responsive education, address gender-based violence, and ensure equal opportunities for all. We emphasize the need for meaningful participation of young people and representation in decision-making processes that affect our lives. We call on governments, political parties, and civil society to create platforms for youth engagement, ensure youth representation in governance structures, and actively seek our input in policy formulation and implementation. We call for climate-sensitive employment opportunities that are resilient to the devastating impacts of climate change. Adaptation initiatives must offer opportunities for job creation and climate-resilient communities. In conclusion, esteemed African heads of state, we the young people stand united in our determination to drive positive change and harness the immense potential of our continent. Amidst the challenges we face, we see boundless opportunities to create a brighter and more prosperous future for all. We pledge to champion innovative educational solutions, engage in healthcare outreach and awareness, lead skills development and entrepreneurship, and promote gender equality initiatives. Through data and research advocacy, social innovation for inclusion, and youth-led peace building, we will shape a more inclusive and resilient society. We recognize our transformative potential in advancing evidence-based decision-making and development planning. We commit to participate in data collection, embracing technology and innovation, and advocating for awareness. By fostering a participatory development, social entrepreneurship, and collaboration, we will ensure the inclusivity and relevance of these frameworks. Your support is pivotal in empowering us to make a tangible difference in the trajectory of our beloved continent. Together we can create a harmonious Africa that thrives on the principles of equity, unity, and progress. As the young people of Africa, we stand ready to work hand in hand with your esteemed leadership, guided by mentorship and support, to forge a path of sustainable growth and development. Let us embrace the power of collaboration, leveraging our collective strengths to build a resilient Africa that leaves no one behind. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to our shared vision. Together we can shape a future that honors the aspirations of our young people who are the heartbeat of our continent. Nothing for us without us. With hope, determination, and resilience, the young people of Africa.
Wow. A round of applause to the committee. They really did a great job, but they couldn't have done it without all of us. So let's give a round of applause to everyone. We'll open the floor for a few people to share your reflections, your inputs on the draft statement that Mary has just presented. 1, I'm taking hands first. 2, 3, and 4. Thank you. Let me start here.
Thank you, Mary, for the draft statement. I had a comment. I didn't hear anything around our natural resources, maybe the governance side of it, because I'm seeing that the population is up, and then I'm assuming the same as we progress, someday or somewhat, we might find ourselves within the conflict of governance of our natural resources because they're depleted. Then we have to somewhere add that as something to be considered with our head of states. Then the other one was the conflicts that might arise as part of the causeway to climate change.
Thank you, Justin. Did you catch it?
Thank you so much, Mary, for that comprehensive outcome statement. But I just wanted to add one point. I think we need not to lose out on the access to information and technology. I'm looking at it to say ensuring access to information, the internet, but also technology is crucial. When it comes to education, health, and skills training, we should think broadly when it comes to country level. So I'm looking at it to say, how can other youth get information about what is happening in terms of education, skills development, and all that. So we need not to lose out in terms of access to information, but also technology. We are going digital, and young people here are one stakeholder when it comes to digital. We are on top of things, but if I give an example of Malawi, only 14.7% have access to internet. So a population of 19 million, but only 14% of that population have access to internet. Then the question would be, how would young people get opportunities? Because these are the platforms that we share opportunities. So we can include that. Thanks.
Since we're speaking about opportunities, yes, let's use the WhatsApp groups that some of us are in to share our inputs, and also on social media, let's share what we think is important for us as a takeaway to our committee, and we'll be reading all your inputs from different platforms. Thank you. Karibu.
My name is Geoffrey. I'm here to represent Afya Plus, and I think my opinion would have to be about career guidance and counseling. Like, it's really important to educate and help the youth transition from uni towards employment, because we always have this tunnel vision of we're supposed to study and get good grades, but nobody really knows what to do after. So yes. I would say my biggest recommendation would be adding career guidance and counseling to the not only curriculum but also programs after university.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have one person in this table.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Margaret, and I currently finished my ETH, so I don't know if I qualify as a graduate. I would like to thank the drafting committee for a very good report, and I would like to talk about mental health in the health component of human capital. It's about time that we had really hard discussions about anxiety and depression and how these things affect productivity. And also, I would like to tell every one of us here that we do have a voice, and we just need to have the right tools to use it. We are able to make change, and really the change begins with us. So whenever you are able to do something about anything that really bugs you, please do it for us and our younger sisters and our siblings and our daughters. It all begins with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your contributions. I'd love to thank the committee, but also everyone who shared your contributions. We'll continue to read your contributions, whether it's online, through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or the WhatsApp groups. and still share with the committee. I hope you'll be reading from all those platforms too. Thank you for bearing with me in this session. It was very insightful and informative. I'd love to welcome Mr. Musa to sum up what we had. Thank you so much.
There's no way I can sum up all this brilliant input, certainly. But clap hands for yourselves, brilliant. And thank you, Sylvia, brilliant facilitation as well. I will invite Solomon Magok Atem, I hope I'm pronouncing your name very well, from South Sudan, to come and give us the vote of thanks and closing remarks. As he is coming, please confirm if you have registered for the summit and you have received communication to confirm your registration. If you have not, you will not be able to access the Julius Nyerere, you can use that one. You will not be able to access the Julius Nyerere place where the summit is happening. Confirm if you have registered. Can I see those who have registered and have received confirmation that they have registered? Yes, yes. If you have not received confirmation, try registering again with a different email address until you get confirmation. It's only those who have gotten confirmation whose badges are ready for collection at the Julius Nyerere Hall. Or the registration is closed. Yeah, so we have to find another way. Can you confirm those who did not register but wanted to access the summit? Okay. My friend here, Amani, show yourself. I know you're not vertical advantaged like me, so please come closer so that I can see you. Yes. I mean, seriously, who is more vertical advantaged? So please see Amani and give your details to Amani. You compile that list, then we can see what we can do. We are not promising, but to do what we can to make sure that perhaps we can negotiate for an extra list. Yeah. Closing remarks. Thank you so much. Solomon, my friend, over to you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. With due respect, I would like to recognize the distinguished guests that are in this hall. To begin with, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Solomon Magok Atem, a youth representative from South Sudan. I'm representing a national organization called Generation 211, whose core goal is to create an environment where youth or young people, especially girls and women, feel free and they enjoy their privileges that they deserve politically, economically, and then socially. Like you put it, my colleague that we came with, we were in the same platform called Children and Young People's Parliament. That parliament is where young people discuss the problem affecting them. Altogether.
Sorry. Please, may we have your attention? We know that we are standing between you and food security, but may you allow Solomon to do the closing remarks so that you can go and secure the Tumbonomics, yes.
Yes, give me some minutes, I will wind up. Like I put it, I worked for a national organization called Generation 211, and I told you that our goal and vision. I'm a former member of Children and Young People's Parliament. That parliament is basically for youth to discuss the problem affecting them. Before I wind up, I'm a student at the University of Juba, a first-year student pursuing a degree in Arts and Humanities. That is a brief introduction about myself. Before I go into my speech, if we don't mind, I would like all of us to stand up for some seconds. All of us. I would like all of us to maintain silence for a space of 10 seconds as our respect to those who are lost in the war that took place in Sudan some months back. I think it is very important for all of us to give our last prayer to all of them. Let's maintain silence for some seconds. Thank you so much. You can sit down. May dear soul rest in peace as we live and we pray such occasions do not happen so often. Yeah, to conclude or to go into my speech, I really appreciate my, let me say all the pre-current speakers for the speech that they gave. They're all touching. The problem that you are facing here in Tanzania are continental. That we are also facing them in South Sudan. And we as youth, we are fighting hard to correct them, say that our children do not fall in the same hole. I'm not blaming our African leaders because they started in a very bad situation. But at some point, I would like to also blame them. Because you cannot sleep while you see your children or your child suffering. If your child is suffering, there is no way that you can call yourself a successful person. I would have loved for them to sit here and I speak. But I know with the, in this digital world, people will submit what I've said. There is no way that they can achieve, or there is no way that they can call themselves prosperous when we as youth are not happy. We can be successful, they can be successful when we as youth support what they say. But if we don't support what they say, how can they call themselves successful leaders? That is a question mark to them. Summarily, human capital, as we all know, is an investment in youth or in a human being. We as youth, we have worked, we invested in ourselves. Like they put it before, me as Solomon, I worked for myself, along with my parents. And the remaining part that I'm asking for the government now is they have to at least empower me such that when I think, I should think positively. We as youth, we are at the verge of going at the wrong direction. We have a lot of things going on. We are Africans and we have cultural heritage. And in this world, we have a lot of things that are so misleading. If I go to internet and I look at the things, I may be misled. When I dress wrongly, they will say that you are dressing wrongly. But they haven't told me how to dress. If I speak wrongly, they will say that, let me say the elders will say that, why do you speak that way and we don't speak that way as African? Have you told me how to speak? This is a question mark to our leaders and to our elders at home. They should find time for us to teach us our cultural heritage, so that when we behave and we go to other world, let me say to other part of the world, will represent typical African culture. To outline some of the problems that were left out by some of my colleagues, one is misuse of youth in politics. But you can bear me witness, like what happened in Sudan. We lost a lot of youth. You know, African leaders are very funny. Whenever there is a conflict, they invite people that are not their relatives. And when there is something that is good, they do what we call nepotism. They favor their relatives. I think I'm not the only person who is experiencing this. It is something that is continental. African youth, African leaders, they use youth in a very wrong way. We as youth, we are vibrant. We can create things if we are used properly. But the problem here is we are used at the wrong time in the wrong place by wrong people. You give me a gun to kill someone whom I don't have any problem with. Is that function? Is it okay? It is not okay. But we as youth, we cannot be blamed because a dog that was brought up in a very wrong place can never behave well when it reaches to a very right place. We as African youth, we are inside here, we are more than enough.
Yes.
We are more than enough. If you go to your country and I go to my country and I influence other people, we can come up with a very right solution to this problem that we are facing. We are no longer kids. Like I told him, I cannot ask my father to give me money for soap. I cannot. I cannot, because I'm responsible for all my expenses. I'm an adult. It is high time we erase this mentality of saying that I'm a young man, I'm a very young man. No. If we behave that way, we'll realize that we are lost. We should change our mindset. If a leader sits here and you sit at this place, you are elders. Okay? I'm not saying that you should disrespect that leader, no. But when you are presenting your point, you should not feel shy. You are also representing your territory. I'm challenging all the youth to change their mindset. If you meet an elder, when that elder says something that is wrong, say to the face that, Mister, what you are saying is not correct. And that person will not repeat that same thing again. But if you are shy, you say, I'm not going to do it. The next thing you hear is that we are going to destroy Uganda. Come, we go. You go. Our African leaders should use us as youth usefully. We should not be used as tools to destroy. This is going to everyone who's inside here and those who are listening outside. The second one is the generational gap that we have with our parents, or let me say with our leaders. Let me say, people of age bracket like our youth there. Have you seen the other group? Have you seen this group? The other group. Can you show for me any one person who is at the age of 30 or 40 there? There's no one, right? Look at this group. This group is a little bit having a different age bracket, right? How can we learn from each other? We cannot learn from each other. It is high time we come together and we share things that we have in common. We have things that they can learn from us, and they have things that we can learn from them. But if we isolate ourselves generationally, can we prosper? Can we prosper? There is no way that we can prosper. We have to come together, we amalgamate our ideas, and we can form a very good continent. When we came to Kenya, I saw the airport was properly constructed. When I came to Julius Nyerere International Airport, the same thing. I asked myself, have the government invested in the youth the way they have invested in all these facilities? The question is not, because if they had invested in you, we would have not sat here, isn't it? They haven't invested in you. I challenge all the government officials to sit down and give us information. All we need is information. We don't want money, okay? Yes, money is okay to facilitate it. Money is okay to facilitate our smooth running of all the things, but it is not our core objective. All we need is to be exposed to the world. That's all we need. Yes, generational gap should be squeezed at least a little bit. Yes, for us to share the things we have in common. I know I'm consuming much of your time, but it is better to get such an opportunity. Just give me some time. The third problem that we face as Africans is, and I will keep on saying it, if we look at the outside world, let me say that Western world, we appreciate that they have developed. Do you know the difference? We are as African. If you tell African, let me say African, to destroy this hotel, today they will destroy it. But if you tell them to generate an idea to raise up this hotel, they will not. Simply because we have mental laziness. I'm telling all of you here, we have mental laziness. And this one is proven by, if we call people for meeting, do they turn up so quickly? They don't turn up because it requires thinking. We fear thinking. How can we move forward if we fear thinking? We should think properly to move forward as Africans. And all of us who are inside here, in the country, we should eliminate tribalism. When we are in the continent, we should eliminate nationalism. Like if I say I'm only for South Sudan, and you say I'm only for Tanzania, we cannot prosper. I hate being asked if I come to Tanzania and someone asks me, where are you going, or where are you coming from? That is not fine. That is not fine. You cannot ask me when I'm home that where are you going, where are you coming from? I'm in my home. How possible is that? The right approach should be, you are welcome. How can I be of service to you? Period. You cannot ask me that where are you coming from? I'm from home. That question should come if I cross, if I go to overseas. We should erase that in our mind. We are one Africa. We are one people. If you believe that we are one people, you cannot laugh when South Sudan is suffering. You cannot laugh when Malawi is suffering. As African, I challenge all of us to have that spirit of togetherness. If we have that spirit of togetherness, we can be okay. My recommendation to those who are taking the report, to the government officials, what we would like to tell them is, if they have failed to connect themselves, they should not fail to connect us as youth.
Yes.
If they are failed to connect themselves or to work together, they should not fail to connect us as youth. Because in, let me say, Agenda 2063, you might see me as the president of South Sudan. I might see you as the president of your country. And by that time, we'll sit down, like what my colleague put before. We'll be evaluating what our youth, our children will be saying. And by this, we need to have a very good synergy. We have to work together as youth at this time, so that we form a very good country, a very good country in the future. Conclusively, I request all the international organizations to at least support the initiatives of youth. By that, you'll be supporting not only youth, but the country. Because kilometers, let me say the meters that I can move in a day cannot be moved by an elder. And once if I'm given resources to work very hard, to work in my area of concentration, I will ensure that everything is done in time and in the right place. So I request all the international organizations, if they're here, to support all the initiatives. Like in Tanzania here, you may be having youth that are having their initiative, like what they said before. All the act is your support. You can support them in information, you can support them financially, and all those stuff. I know I'm someone who can talk. I am someone who can talk for a very long time. I can talk, but I think, let me not arrest you because we have sat for a long time. All I ask from you is, let's keep this day in our memory. You have to write it at the back of your memory. Whenever you are sad, remember this day will be happy. Because this is a day where people of great mind have come together. You should know very well that the thing that are on your head is not hair. Those are flowers of wisdom. You should keep on watering them so that you grow as a very strong person. Africa for Africa. Africa for Africa. We want to develop our country. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Shall we clap hands again for the future president of South Sudan? The future president of South Sudan, I'm certain that the country will be in good hands, to a Pan-Africanist in the making. Now, Solomon, I had a problem when you're not talking that the things on your head are flowers of wisdom. Some of us, the flowers are falling off. Does it mean wisdom is also falling off? Well, thank you so much. I'm sure you have received a meal coupon. So this is how we're going to proceed. Straight out of the, it's difficult to give directions in English. So you get out straight, that's where the restaurant is, straight in that direction, yes. Please do register. If you have registered, badges for the summit are going to be collected at the Julius Nyerere Hall. So there's a bus, Javita, yeah? There's a bus, soon after you're done with your lunch, there's a bus that will be taking people to the Julius Nyerere Hall outside here, so be there when you're done. The sessions on the website where you registered, that's where the agenda for the session is. So please engage with it. We look forward to seeing you there. And please let's caucus, especially those who are being sponsored by Save the Children, to see how we can effectively engage. For those also local delegates, shall we caucus when we get there so that we can effectively engage, because we have a good outcome statement. We don't just want it to be good grammar which will not see the light of day. We have to strategize and see how we can engage with the delegations that are representing our countries. We know that there's a youth presidential champion in Burundi. We are hoping that perhaps some of us here can then go and engage with the president of Burundi and make sure that this statement at least influences the conversation that will happen in the next 3 days. That said, clap hands for yourselves. You have done a sterling job. You deserve your lunch. Thank you so much. So we can go and have our lunch as we network. Thank you.
kuna